and now Purdy has to be very careful. This game is actually out of control. Look, fighting too! It's all about gunplay and control right now, and he's waiting for it. Gets his brain away, gets another knock, and the dance continues.
For the final weekend of the ESL PUBG Masters Americas. With 12 games and a win by Oath in the books, the results last week proved unexpected for many fans and even more analysts, as some of the top teams, most notably Sonics and TSM FTX, struggled. What will happen this week as we start over, start fresh, and have a chance for teams to change the narrative? My name's Toppies. I will be joined by the best and the brightest that the business has to offer. Thank goodness. It is the Cammy D and Clover. Excited to have you guys here. Super hyped about this week. I'm glad to be back. Let me ask you, what are you most excited about this week, Cameron?
Listen, you said that we had a couple of teams, like Sonics and TSM really not step up, but that's because they were replaced by a bunch of other teams that I personally didn't expect a lot out of, Fiumba and Akreche specifically, but they came out swinging last week. I'm really excited to see if these new fighters from the Latin American region will continue their form going into this second week.
Clover, give me your quick take going into this week.
I agree with Cammy. LATAM really brought the heat last week, and we saw just some amazing consistency for them throughout that entire weekend. But the question that's on my mind is if they are going to consistently show their A game again this week going into week 2.
It has been a heck of a journey, guys. Over 200 teams dropped out of the plane to start this event. Only 16 remain. Cameron, why don't you take us through the format and kind of the journey of how the teams got here and what's next?
Yeah, so we started off with open qualifiers. Anyone could have signed up. You had to advance through each stage one at a time until we reached our group stages, where the top 24 teams of each region battled it out in round-robin groups, and now we're looking at the best 8 from each sub-region facing each other off over the course of 2 individual weekend events that culminate into the prize pool. Clover?
Yeah, and as you can see, week 1 prizes have already been dished out for the winners last week. Oath took home that $6,500 prize, and then all the way down to 8th place, they walked away with money. So for teams that did not walk away with much or anything at all last week, they've got to be drooling for that first place spot. And
because it comes with a bonus, right? $5,000, Clover. But it's not just the extra 5K. There's something else on the line that I think a lot of players are slavering to get their hands on.
It is PGC points. We're getting closer and closer to the end of the year. This is ESL Masters Americas 2. After this event with PGC points on the line, you see first place is going to walk away with 300 points. PCS 5 is the last event that these players can really have to get that chance. So if you're falling behind right now, Oath and Dodge are actually really close to each other in terms of points. There's a couple other teams from Latin America that are also looking to be really close for qualifications. They want to do really good here at this event. And then, of course, obviously at PCS 5, so they can have that showing at the end of the year at PGC.
Absolutely. It's a bit of a transition here, Cameron, because you can't talk about this without taking a brief look back at last week and the dominance of some of these teams. I mean, as you look at these standings, 3 chicken dinners for Oath I know early on there was some these guys don't get kills, but by the end of the week, they were on pace.
Yeah, they definitely picked up the kills on the third day, right before they clinched their final win to go for the full victory. But this was a very, very surprising weekend overall. We've already referenced that fact a few times, but even the players themselves were talking during interviews about how different everything played out, which obviously in a battle royale, it's not just one team versus one team. It's a full butterfly effect where one team plays differently and it completely just travels down the course and to make everything different and weird. And so if you're a team, your biggest focus is keeping 4 up till the end. We say it all the time, but that is the biggest fact in this game.
Yeah, and really we saw 2 different ways that teams were tackling that, right? There are teams that were running and gunning all game long. Creche really was finding the fights, even in phase 1 and phase 2. And on the flip side of that, we had Oath that would really keep their heads down, make it to the late game if they could. And they'd come into those final fights with 4 or 5 kills, but they picked up 3 chicken dinners last week. And that's a big reason why we saw them as that winner. And so for teams like Sonics, teams like TSM, that were struggling to get into the late game. Really, TSM almost didn't at all. And Sonics, so they did have a couple late game presences, couldn't get that win. And so obviously coming into this week, that is going to be what's on the forefront of focus for these teams, because the kills are going to only help you so much on a leaderboard. And we saw so many ties last week for that.
I mean, and that's what it comes down to. You saw Sonics featured there, Cameron, but they never put the chickens on the board. At the end of the day, it's about most money earned. So how, we'll take a look in a second at the cash. How does that sort of inform this week's play?
Yeah, so each weekend that we're looking at here, the 2 weekends that the ESL Americas 2 has, are treated as their own individual event in terms of points. However, the event overall is the culmination of both weeks combined. So if you're a team, Sonics is a good example, or even below that you didn't have a really great showing, third place in most cases would be a solid position. But when you combine those 2 factors, third place is not good enough for Sonics if they want a really good grab of cash, or especially a really good grab of PGC points. So understanding the relationship between how the 2 weeks interact together could influence decision making this week, especially as we get in towards the end.
All right, so we only have 4 games a day, Clover. You're going to see the sort of layout on the bottom there. And I want to get your sort of perspective here. I know you know the maps, you know these teams very well. Latin America was blowing my mind last week. And I think we even heard Sparking in an interview where somebody say, like, NA, writes us off. They definitely made some proof last week. Do you think they do it again? How do they go into this week focused on winning?
You know, I don't think that there is these one-off games and these one-off situations where you can sit there and write them off and say, it was luck. But, you know, they do need to prove that, hey, you can do it in a 3-day weekend. You can do it a second time in a 3-day weekend. It wasn't just one LATAM team either. I mean, Creche had a phenomenal time. We talked a little bit about Fiumba as well. There was a couple of times that we even saw some good presence from 22 Esports and Trogloditas. So I think for 22 Trogloditas that kind of had some warm days, I'd like to see them step up a little bit. For Creche and some of those other LATAM teams, keep bringing it. We're starting out on Miramar, which can be good for some of those LATAM teams. There's not as much water rotations chance for those Miramar circles. So I really want to see them come out strong.
I would love to see them come out strong. And so you brought up a good topic. You know I love my predictions. I like to get your opinions on what's going to happen on day 1. So Cameron, I want to start with you. Knowing what we know now, based on last week, who comes out at the top on day 1?
My brain tells me that I should go back to the Sonics again, because if you look at the history of them this year, last week should be ultimately just like a blip on their whole performance. But I don't if they could have gotten 1 win, I maybe would pick them this week. But I really have to look at Fiumba, especially for this opening day. Okay. I think they played very well over the last weekend, and we have yet to see consistency from a lot of Latin American teams. There still seems to be a lot of up and down between them, but I'm hoping that this is maybe the new Latin American hero that's going to be at the top on a more regular basis.
I'm into it. That's a slot at PGC. Love to see it. All right, I wrote that down. Cam chooses Fiumba. Let's go to you, Clover. Who are
I
you
think
putting
if
your
we had
money on?
started on Erangel, I might also be a bit more on Sonics. Obviously, the motivation is there for them to play catch up this week. And by no means were they not finding killing chances last week. But given how they've kind of been caught off guard from some of their rotations, especially on the Miramar maps, I kind of don't necessarily know this might be a good start for them. So I also am going to jump on the LATAM, but I'm going to stay with the Creche.
Okay, so you want a Creche. All right, and in case anybody cares, which I can't imagine you do, I'm going to pick Sonics. Here's the deal, and you guys tell me how you feel about this. I'm starting by picking them, so y'all can't hate me when I say the next thing. And it felt to me like last week's the Sonics came in with a bit of hubris, maybe a little bit of we just dominate, it is what it is, and they played really well, but they weren't closing those games out, Cameron. Do you think that, did you feel that attitude from them, or did it just seem like maybe luck wasn't clicking, that RNG wasn't in their favor?
I would say you had a point if it was isolated to the Sonics, but I think a lot of the expected leaders from North America specifically really struggled, and I'm going to keep just leaning back on the fact that the mid games, especially in a lot of the rotations, were very, very chaotic throughout the majority of the games, more so than usual. So I do think it is more of a case of a lot of the North American teams, not just the Sonics, being caught off about how the meta of these 16 teams combined created, because you do have to remember that in a Battle Royale, each tournament will develop its own meta because the interactions between all 16 teams goes through an algorithm, an exponential curve of addition, subtraction, and all that to create its own thing. You can't expect to approach even if you replace one team from the 16, you can't expect to replace that tournament the exact same way every time.
I'd love your take on that, Clover, because it is. Cameron poses an interesting thought, this idea of a mini meta that sort of exists under the major meta, or the overall theory of sort of how to play these games, because it changes so rapidly. How do you approach that as a team, or maybe a coach for these teams?
I mean, we've heard that some of the players talk about it in interviews for how they play differently for their sub-region versus when the sub-regions come together, because they're used to having an area for free. They're used to teams always taking very similar routes or rotations. And when they play with a new region and a new set of teams, that's all very different. And so you have to approach things a little bit more cautiously. You expect something to always be occupied and maybe get caught off guard by a team that you wouldn't normally expect. And on the flip side of that, be prepared for anything. We saw a lot of times teams get into an engagement, say, you know what, it's not worth it, and break away, and break away successfully to have a better late game presence. One of the reasons why I actually am picking a Crutche for this weekend, because we saw that kind of strategy work in their favor many times last weekend.
I love that you guys are bringing up Latin America. I know that if they do really well today, I'm excited about having some interviews and chats with them. Here's the thing, Cameron, I want to touch on. Last time, when we first got together for PCS and ESL, the first time we saw the merging of the regions, there was a lot of commentary from the Latin American teams about how our scrims maybe don't have the same quality. We're not used to playing with the North American teams. It's going to take us some time to get our legs under us. Last week felt like, maybe apparently PCS 4 was enough time, and they're ready to bring it. Did you get that feel? Do you think that they've been sailing ahead while maybe NA has been lagging behind?
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
I think this last weekend will be the real test of if that's the case, because anyone can get caught out for one weekend. It's obviously about the recovery, and it's about the adjustment and adaptation, right? So I do think the Latin American region has been growing at an incredibly fast pace. Go back and look even at the DreamHack at the end of last year going into the 2021 circuit. Every event, they have teams and individual players that just get better and better and better. I do still think overall the sub-region is still lagging behind North America, but the gap has been closing at a consistent pace this entire year.
It's been closing, and there's a lot of enthusiasm there, Clover. I mean, they had, I think, 4 times the signups for opens that North America had. Like, as a region, Latin America is excited about this.
Always. I mean, Latin America is just a massive region. And of course, shout out to everybody in chat. We know that you guys have been in here day after day, week after week, cheering on your favorite teams and your favorite players. Yep. And, we've even seen, I think, a stronger presence of LATAM players. I believe it was Sparking that we talked to last week, where he talked about how exciting it was for him to switch over to a North American team and bring that experience that he has of the Latin America meta into play with him in the roster. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're starting to see some of these kind of mixed merger teams have a good presence, because they have a good and deep understanding of both of the separate metas of play that each of these regions have individually. So looking back into that, I mean, it makes it for me really exciting. Not just, obviously, we've been talking so much about LATAM at the start of this, but for the North American teams as well that are learning and adjusting how to play against these rosters. I just think it's going to make our region so much stronger for show at the end of the year at PGC when we play against Asia, when we play against Europe.
All right, and now that's a great point. I love this idea of like sparking and sort of the mixing of the regions. I want to ask you very quickly, Cameron, you brought it up. You said adaptation is the name of the game. What stands out in your head that you expect them to adapt and come out strong today, changing it up?
Ooh, I mean, I'm looking at Dignitas because they have a lean towards playing on the edge, and you really need to be able to scout. So I think they are going to have those tools in their skill set already. But also Oath. I'm interested to see what they can do. We know they like the high ground, so let's see what that can give them.
Clover, real quick, who adapts?
TSM. I think that TSM struggled just a little bit. I think they're one of the teams that's been struggling the most against LATAM. I think that they're going to figure it out this week.
I hope that they do. I hope everyone figures it out because game one is about to get underway. The plane is in the air. Game one kicks off. It's the ESL PUBG Masters America with the masters of the microphone, Porosaurus and Hypak.
I pressed the button. Yes, it is us, the masters of the muted microphones. Well, at least me, Porosaurus, and Hypak once again.
Is this thing on? Oh.
We are, but stop. You're just being rude at this point. You know it's on. You already know it's on. You know that you're a well-prepared individual, and we are well-prepared to get into this second set of games. I know you had off last week. Gonna get a chance to watch many of these. Any thoughts, hot sports opinions?
I just completely forget that I was working last week, I guess. Yeah, so whilst I was watching along the games from the desk, I did actually pick up on a couple of things. And I'm glad to see Toffee's brought up a really interesting point, which I know me and you were kind of back and forthing on earlier in the year, which is when some of these LATAM teams kind of catch up, that kind of stage of reassessment from some of the North American teams, right? And I think last week was actually a really good example of that. We talk about teams that are particularly good at chasing in terms of the leaderboard and teams that aren't so much, right? And you look at that kind of cluster, and for me, it sits around Sonics, TSM, and SSG. Those are three prime candidates, and we don't usually see those chasing the way in which they were last week.
Yeah, I mean, on the flip side of the coin, you look at Oath, who was constantly talking about, if we ever get a victory and we get to play from ahead, boy, look out. Well, they got a victory in game one and then just did nothing until game 8. Yeah. And then they turned it on in the last day and were able to clutch out the victory for week 1. We'll see if they got it figured out. I'm not sure if it was adjustments on the part of Oath. It had to have been something. I mean, they just completely turned things around on that final day, though.
I think come game 8 last week, it was sort of like the stars have aligned, and there's a chance, right? I mean, actually, we were just talking about this a moment ago, right? How much better was their last day in comparison to any other collection of games that they had across the weekend? So I definitely think as well that there's that kind of mentality switch where it's out of the realms of possibility versus actually, we've closed this game out, we've got a real opportunity to, and I even called it coming into that last game when I was working last week, but I actually said this on the desk. It was interesting, you missed it. Where Dignitas actually, with that kill count coming through, there's a real chance for them in the last game to come out as the victors, and Oath, I feel like they slipped through the net to get that victory. Yeah,
I mean, look, Dignitas looked fantastic, honestly, throughout all last week. I mean, the kill counts was there, and Sonics as well. I think the thing, and we touched on it a few times, and I think it bears repeating, that I think the thing that Sonics was that we've gotten used to seeing Sonics fight their way out of bad positions so many times just based off of pure skill, and it wasn't really happening for them there last week. They were... Go ahead.
Go on.
No, I was saying, I mean, they were still in the bad positions. Hey, look at that. Hey, we are in the game. We don't have to talk over each other anymore, but I bet we do.
I bet we're probably going to do it for the next 27 or 28 minutes.
Yeah, roughly so, something like that. Well, I mean, hey, if anybody wanted to look at a team, maybe to take a few notes on how to get to late game, it had to be Fiumba, right?
It has to be. And again, I mean, they've already sung their praises, but they've set some expectations now, at least for me. It definitely wasn't one that I would have pitched as being a real top contender. We kind of use the phrase of some of these middle-of-the-pack teams that come through and play consistently well, maybe put up a victory here and there. But you look at just the snapshot of their entire week last week, and it was great to see. Honestly, there were no real games where I felt as if they were... playing unorthodox, or it was bread and butter good PUBG from them last week.
Absolutely, and I mean, you look at them on paper as well. I mean, they had the highest average placement, not only overall, but on both maps. It didn't matter where they were placing super high, and I think their total average placement was 4.67. Second place was a Creche with 7.8. That's 3 places lower. That is remarkable consistency.
It's a big gap.
Exactly, and it's remarkable consistency coming from a team that's also, experienced players, but relatively new in terms of playing together.
Yeah, it is. So big tick in the box again. whether or not we're discussing honeymoon period or whatnot.
Yeah,
but like I said,
that's where it
the
starts getting
expectation
interesting.
set for me now, Pora, and that's really when I don't want to say, we start really testing a team in terms of, the standard to which we hold them. But last week in itself was a real eye opener for me in terms of Fiumba.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's the thing, isn't it, though? I mean, we've seen it so many times where a team comes out of nowhere and we're like, oh my God, could this be the next big thing? And then, the next week they just fall completely back down to earth. So really looking at Fiumba this week to kind of see if they can maintain that ability to get to late game.
And this is another interesting thing, right? With this, effectively, this leaderboard reset, right? In terms of the standings itself, it's a good opportunity for, like we said, some of those teams that did have that ability to kind of make that, I guess, tactical, that strategic adjustment once they put a win up or once they put 2 wins up, right? And that whole kind of mentality, that ethos towards each game and those decisions along the way changes. So now coming back to a blank canvas, there's even more emphasis on that.
Yeah, and I mean, you look, and we talk about it all the time, how everybody's allowed to have a bad weekend, right? Bad weekends happen to every team, doesn't matter how good you are. Sonics had theirs last weekend. In particular, I was looking at TSM. Did you know that they never made it? Actually, they only made it to Circle 5 with all 4 players alive twice in 12 games last week.
I did not know that.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane when you think about that team and just... when we talk about how you're exactly,
that's very uncharacteristic.
Exactly, and that's why I'm thinking, something's got to give eventually, right?
Yeah, and again, we talk about the real successes that teams like Sonics and TSM have. It's being able to fight out of a bad position and do that consistently, right? They're not often teams that. You look at them and say, well, yeah, that circle probably screwed them, right, in terms of this rotation. Yeah. I'm going to expect them to basically crumble. They're usually teams that overcome those sorts of obstacles, that are able to find value where other teams wouldn't.
And, one of the things you kind of hear a lot is, Sonics, just by nature of the fact that they do have this Picado Pachinki loot spot, they're going to end up getting a lot more circle luck than most other teams based on their drop spots. That didn't happen last week either. And it was just a result of just a string of lousy circles. Now, not to cut Sonics too much slack, though, because they did manage to make it to top 5 several times. But they were beaten and busted a lot more than maybe they're used to.
Yeah. As you can see, there's been some rotations going on. Real shots traded back and forth. We were in podcast mode for a full 5 minutes there.
I mean, it's as soon as I saw the circle, man, 100% playable. It's going to be slow.
I'm reclined an extra 20 degrees straight away as soon as I see that.
You're gonna pull out the back of the chair pillow and just fluff it up a little. Yeah, get your blankie on, a little snuggie.
Look, nobody really getting to.
Can't even find anybody to shoot at.
But yeah, I was going to say, looking at mine here, there is I think Luke is actually the next closest player. He's going to get himself a crate completely unopposed. At least here, these are positives, right? And again,
for sure,
coming back to a team like TSM, you give them an opportunity to set up comfortably. Those are the games where you expect them to do well. And again, we always look back at the ones where it's... I don't want to say making desperation plays, but the ones where TSM's hand is forced.
Right. And to be fair, Circle 1, it's Circle 1. Like, usually people can get into Circle 1 without a problem. But that being said, last week, we were seeing early scrapping all the time, it seemed like. I mean, these Latin American teams are not afraid to if they're driving past you, they see you running, they are not afraid to chase you down and do a little seat swapping and do a little damage on you. And it seemed like that was happening a lot. And I think that was one of the things that was taking a lot of these North American teams off guard, was these Latin America's not just willingness to, but almost like really, really wanting to fight early.
Yeah. It goes against the grain in terms of, I guess, how a lot of the North American teams have adopted to this new format, this new meta overall. In their eyes, it kind of defies logic, right?
Yeah, which is why you get interviews like the Oath Boys last week.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know either. What could I possibly be talking about? Anyway, C22 and versus, at least this time it's going to be 2 LATAM teams scrapping with each other. This is, and that's the other thing, though. It hadn't just been North American teams paying the price for this. I mean, Latin American teams have been scrapping with each other almost more than they have with North American teams, just based off of rotation patterns. And if I had to guess, based off of now that they've had a week to review, I think some of the North American squads might have figured out some rotation paths here, maybe know how to avoid. And there you go, Roth actually going to get lost. And this is, again, this is what we're talking about right here. The fight north of Los Leones, outside of Circle.
Yeah, and this is Necro's kind of a lone ranger. You can see here on the map overlook, it's only 1 member of Trogloditas this far south and 3 members of SSG. Again, not really having solid information on that, so they can't really respond. Like they're just going to lose 1 for their troubles. And again, it's these unfortunate circumstances where they're crossing paths, right? It's not as if these two have been shadowing each other. I watched this for a while, actually, back on the map to see if they ended up crossing paths. Yeah, it was a long time coming for them to meet just outside Los Leones. And unfortunately, as SSG lose 1 elsewhere, actually, I mean, everybody except for 22 and Versus kind of set up comfortably, I gotta say here, Boros. Everybody else has managed to at least get inside this circle and find themselves something to see the next pop.
Yeah, everybody kind of favoring that little area between just north of Minas Generalis. If this does hard cut north, or if we... Oh, there you go, Jude. Will get picked out.
That was a matter of time.
It really was. 22 was not letting that man get away. I mean, he had no vehicle, no nothing. He's just sitting at a rock. That's the freest kill you'll ever find. Jude, for his part, being a little bit of a pain in the butt and not giving it up freely. But yeah, you know, it's this Circle 2 is going to be... I mean, it could be brutal if it cuts hard north. I think a lot of teams expecting it to play out around that El Azahar Valley on that roadside. Sonic, so you can see Oath especially. They got 1 north. Dignitas playing around that as well. TSM as well.
TSM, I was about to say, yeah, it's set up in what is usually the best kind of Circle 3, Circle 4 transition split to be holding down. Again, if it does pull slightly towards the west and back towards that kind of Hacienda field, at least in towards Circle 3, they're in a really, really good position. The problem is everything outside of it, everything to the east, everything to the north, they have to cross paths with it. Okay, well, there you go. Right. Pulls back towards the Hacienda field, right? I guess that's the best possible thing if you're a TSM fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously... I don't think that was what a lot of these guys were expecting, but as far as Circle 2 shifts go, hard shifts go, that could have been way worse.
Yeah.
And Sonic's already on the move, and they're actually going to get pretty much their choice of wherever they want to go here, and that's pretty good news if you're a Sonics fan.
You see, actually, is that Mime and H-Win making a mad dash west back towards... yeah, it looks like they're actually going to settle for the long building alongside the road. And TSM actually... regrouping. Crochet. Yeah. We'll hear Dignitas as well in rotation. Looks like they're going to try and set up at least to pressure this. Actually, Dignitas a little bit split here, Mike, so could be difficult here for them to not take any casualties.
This is going to be rough. They still got 2 north of the road here. So Punaj and Shimboy on a solo mission against all 4 of Akreshe, and we know Akreshe very capable fraggers after last week. It's like a nice little side angle from KSH. She'll get Punaj out of the last bullet will do it. Get the headshot and get the knock. Shimboy now all by himself. Where are the other 2 members of Dig? They're in vehicles starting to make their way over here, but the terrain just not providing good cover fire. And there you go. Punaj will get flushed out, and Shimboy trying to survive a little bit longer. Here comes support, though, in the form of Sparking.
So Honeybadge is still playing way disconnected from this, so a little bit of split focus. I mean, with Sparking at least coming over here, they're not anticipating Akreshe fully forcing this team fight, I guess. Honeybadge now, we're finding maybe he did see something over on the north there that I'm not aware of, but now does head south to regroup a little bit. Shimboy should be able to slip away here. It's actually... damage coming in from Balkan way off to the northeast.
Oh, no chance.
Okay. Well, now I guess I see that in the kill feed, and they're probably going to try and pressure a little bit more. Honestly, seeing that knock, I think it's going to get confirmed at distance here, but at least have a little peek back over. Honey Badger, can he get the smoke down in the res?
He got the. Looks like he got the truck in place at least. But Akreche, yeah, I mean, look at this. Akreche though still making the push. You can see LFP just above them here. Shots coming through onto Honey Badger. Balkan not finding as much success as he did on the first time around. But where do you go if you're Badger? I mean, he's just running down into the valley here. And Shimboy just let it roll. And now Sparking's been spotted out by VHZ. So the Circle 1 fight, or the Circle 2 fight rather, costing Dignitas a lot here.
And Bale, she picked that one up.
Nice little
down to 2.
Nice little snatch. Yeah.
Yoink.
She yoinks it right away. A little bit of a, gotta say, gotta be a little bit of redemption there for No Chance after their 4v2 crash, or the 2v4 crash that Dignitas had onto them last game, or last week, where they didn't get to fire off a single shot. So a little bit of, they get to cause Dignitas some problems there at least.
This is, I mean, I hate the fact that I almost mentioned it, but this is exactly the setup that that initial split from TSM. You've seen him actually switching things up a little bit now. Going to split down towards the south, the long building, actually just east of Sonics. And Sonics will consolidate, actually. They will regroup back towards the north. But this is just the circle I was talking about. TSM, if they can maintain control of that high ground as well with where they're playing to the north, it's a really, really strong position, because all of these teams from the east, they either have to come down to the road or they have to traverse that terrain on the north. And it's so difficult to get set up there if somebody's already kind of comfortably in that compound.
It's going to be tough for all those teams off to the north. I mean, you get the 4-man squad of Gas Cans, Young Kings, and Dodge all kind of holding down right around that same 2-2 split, the northern half of the 2-2 rather, and Troglodytes. Looks like they're comfortable just creeping on the edge here. 22 is taking shots in their backs, but no real damage done. As 22 is now back in the vehicles, trying to figure out where to go on this south side. There is room to play. It's not great. Oh my goodness. It's one. Shitboy staying alive. He's going to get 2 through the window. No, he won't. Akreche will clean that up. But now Oath is leaving their compound. They want a little bit of a piece of this too. You can see Kickstart making his way over with grenade in hand. A few shots from FBN to try to keep them from pushing too close. That might be good. Nope, just off. Just off.
Wait, how? What?
They were on the. I think they were on the side. The motorcycle, maybe.
Yes, yeah. That looked money. But I mean, Akreche follow on up now on the initial pressure they created, the initial damage they'd done at least, and it's going to give them a decent spot over on this side of the circle for the time being. Oath don't look too interested.
Yeah, they're a little bit worried about TSM, I think.
Yeah, I think actually potentially now that they've seen this knock and confirm, they should have a good read that at least where both teams are situated here. And now that a weakened Akreche are set up down in the shack, it's been very difficult for them to fight away from this. If the circle pulls center again, or God forbid, goes elsewhere, this is free pickings for Oath.
I mean, this is essentially a 50-50 circle in phase 3 here. You can see Oath has spotted out No Chance, taking shots over the top of Akreche. No Chance looks like they spotted out Kickstart as well. Alo was taking shots over towards Oath when they looked like they were thinking about creeping down onto Akreche, and that might have been what forced them to pump the brakes. Meanwhile, up on the north side, Gas Cans, Young Kings, Dodge all still managed to find some semblance of peace, but that's going to be over now as that hard shifts down to the south. And Veritas, Oath looking money. TSM already in vehicles, should be able to get this back to a 4-man in one compound fairly easily.
I mean, but the problem being, it's notoriously difficult to leave this compound. They're about to consolidate on one of the hardest compounds to leave late game, right? And it does, I don't know what we're looking at there. It does depend on what the next circle does, obviously, but I mean, if they lose a couple of vehicles here, it's rough. It's very rough to get out, especially with teams set up like No Chance here. They're basically trying to play alongside this dirt road and stop this future rotation from TSM.
Yeah, I mean, all of these teams on the north, I don't know where you
teams
go.
from the north coming down. They're literally going to try and cross the road here. Ahead of the circle, but...
No chance. It looks like they made it across for now. Creche being where they are, going to be surviving. But here you go. Gas Cans, Young Kings right behind him. Young Kings going to take shots into the back of Gas Cans as they make their way down the ditch. And they're going to find a full 4-man squad of No Chance ready and waiting. Heikeman actually going to take out Adam in the process. Rizola going to finish him off. And one will get away from Gas Cans. Nikos will make his way up the hill to survive and keep them alive for a little bit longer. Now, Young Kings, they have to see that kill feed and know what's up.
They do indeed, yeah. Going to divert a little bit. Shots come through. Actually, yeah, Penta's going to find Pablex on the way down here, and Alo will follow up. Young Kings is getting picked apart in this rotation. No chance. Still trying to land some damage on the way in, but TSM going to be able to defend the compound for the time being. But now Nikos trying to get some pressure onto. Look at that. Luke actually going to open up onto Vulcan. There's literally 3 teams now shooting, all towards No Chance.
Oof, the smoke cloud just went away for No Chance, and that just kind of opened things up for TSM. Young Kings sent 1 into the compound for TSM, and were able to get 1 away, but it looks like they'll be finished off as well. TSM holds fast for now. No Chance still alive in that smoke cloud. Looks like we will lose that one Nikos. I'm not sure. I guess it was a Creche maybe spotted him out. 303, meanwhile, all bundled up on the northwestern side. Dodge versus 303, all crashing on top of each other. Oh no.
Okay. Literally 4 teams have found each other at the edge here. Hello Senpai going to come over. And another knock here. Troglodytes finish off Fiumba elsewhere actually. Look at that sharp shot.
Oh, what's going on? Yeah, this is...
I don't know how Dodge have survived this, honestly.
They keep 1 up, or they lose 1 and 2. I think it's 1 up for 303 now. Yeah. As there's 2 3-way fights going on, 1 in the northwest, 1 in the southwest. Troglodytes does take out Fiumba, so that's going to be them going out early. Rare sight. You can see SSG crept up there. 22 was involved as well. Sonics will spot out Faishka. The 3 up from Dodge, though, should be able to avoid the line of sight for Sonics for the time being. There goes Troglodytes. Kill demo has been flushed, and now 22 can decide what do they want to do. Do they want to go west? Do they want to go east? There's an SSG to their west, Veritas to their east. Oath, they're done with the Creche, though. It's time.
It's time. Again, just been sitting on this information for long enough now, and now's the time to act upon it. Kickstart going to find an angle through the windows. No damage just yet, but a matter of time before Oath can deal with this. And actually, look at this. Kickstart's getting aggressed on here. Actually, something going to push all the way up. Kickstart's going to fall. The trade doesn't come through just yet from Bale, but Oath's got to be careful not to take any more damage or casualties here.
And look at this. No Chance now going to creep up. They're going to use the confusion to make their way up the hillside right on top of VHZ. VHZ doesn't, I think he knows now. He's taking shots through the smoke. Cable actually going to go for the res on Balkan inside the smoke wall. While you can see Snakers trying to find some kind of angle here. Rizola will get knocked and flushed as well by VHZ. Oh, it looks like they've got a little bit of utility still. There goes No Chance. They're done. VHZ, I believe the last one up now for Krex, as Oath do get the res onto Kickstart. They're back up to 4 strong. He's a tough nut to crack, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, finally. Okay,
there we go.
We'll finally deal with that, and things should slow down a little bit now. Again, Oath should be able to find a little bit of space, and the interesting thing, I mean, I talked about Sharpshot getting involved with that third party towards Dodge. SSG, well, Keenan and Sharpshot, I should say, the only 2 with solid information on what's left on the north side, right? Sonics, they've been stuck in the compound. They can only really go off the kill feed, right? They don't really have any other tangible information in terms of numbers on these teams. And TSM, likewise, obviously, ever since Young Kings have kind of sent in, they've been able to track a couple of fights potentially, but this is the problem with playing the road here. You have no real idea of positioning or solid information in terms of numbers.
I think the only thing that they may have an idea about is that Oath is above them. That's about the only thing that I could think. Everything else, though, and they probably assume that Sonics is down in that other compound. And there you go, TS. Oh, Penta gets picked. That's a man that was probably working the rooftop. No, yeah, you can see he got picked on the side there. Purdy has made his way out as well, and Sonics was taking shots down in this area. Not sure if they were taking them at Oath, but Kickstarter does take a little damage. They're going to pull off of that. Veritas, meanwhile, just hovering on that south side, just waiting for the right time, gaining information about what's ahead of them. Sharpshot and Keenan make their way up from the compound, but they're going to get picked up from range. It's going to be Tiggleton.
No.
And now Sharpshot getting pushed down by 22. And look at the circle. Oh, both TSM and Sonics.
That's tough. There's a lot of damage coming 22 Esports weight. Finally, they will fall. Lampalot deal the killing blow. Sharpshot actually, I guess, the lone survivor here of that initial clash down on the southwest side, which I didn't see that one coming, that's for sure. Sonics now need to, I guess, try and get ahead of Dodge, but the problem is, it's kind of one of those situations where you don't want to be the first team to move.
No,
Dodge,
absolutely
arguably
not.
more ground to cover, but I mean, if Sonics try and send a couple forwards, Dodge can definitely punish that rotation. Likewise, I don't think Dodge can actually get past Sonics. They have to effectively run the gauntlet. You can see here onto that dirt road on the opposite side.
Curious as to the condition of Sonic's vehicles. As we see TSM already making moves, they're going to pull their...
I feel like TSM are dead here.
Yeah,
like if Oath get 10 seconds kind of breathing space, they can punish TSM so easily.
Yeah, they're a little bit split focus. They are taking shots over at Dodge. Dodge kind of keeping
Dodge,
Oath's heads down here.
Exactly. I was just about to say that.
Let's see what Oath decides to do. Reload going to land some good damage here, but now Dodge can't afford to stick around any longer. They've got the circle right on their backs. Vegas already knocked pretty low here. A few smokes laid down for the time being, but it's not going to be enough. They're going to need more than that if they're going to try to get past Sonics, who are still waiting in that compound.
I mean, this is actually timed perfectly. Sonics are on the move out now as Dodge are getting punished. That's one team that's not shooting at Mime, right, as he crosses. Now they have a foothold inside the next circle. Potentially they can get a couple of bodies across.
So good news for TSM as they managed to creep out. Tig will get picked out by Purdy. That was always going to be the risk. You knew getting all guys across was going to be a hard proposition. And now Sharpshot going to be a little bit of a pain here. He's taking shots from Oath, but he still would love to do some damage to these Sonics boys. Belfrost, the rest of the Oath gang still have that high ground. When is Veritas going to act? They haven't really done anything yet. They haven't really had to.
I think this is the circle where they can spread. Before this, it would have been a little overzealous to come out of the, say the junkyard, at least up on the hillside. Lobes will try and take a forward position here. Well, TSM still, I guess, wary of Oath, and Oath still not over peaking. Again, this is kind of a three-way kind of protection here. Oath can't really overpeak because of Sonics, right? TSM can't aggress up the hill because of Sonics, and it's actually really difficult. Sonics are actually going to get the benefit of the shift as well.
Wow. That is a lucky Sonic shift, and we'll see what they're able to do with it. This kind of feels like now Oath is in a position where they have to wrap south into Veritas, doesn't it? I mean, there's no real other option for them. And I know that they're aware that Veritas is sitting there, and we'll see if they're aware of how many are up. But this is going to be tough for everybody outside the circle here to try to make their way in with everybody still alive.
Well, the problem is there's not an awful lot in this next circle either. Other than where Sonics are playing, there's high ground just to the north side of Sharpshot, but nothing comfortable. I mean, Veritas potentially can forge a path or set some kind of car fort up on the backside of that, but Sharpshot needs to fall in order for that to happen.
You see TSM slowly making their way, inch at a time. Oath doing the same. They've got their vehicles just making their way forward, not trying to send it any further than they can scout. Although it might be them spotting out Veritas on the move, so that might be the signal to just go ahead and push it to these rocks. Snakels will do just that. They managed to make it in for the time being, but as you said, Veritas has a really nice split here, multiple lines of sight, and Sharpshot, though, in a bad spot for them, as he's going to do some big damage onto JR. Won't get the knock, though, but that's gonna force Veritas to be split focused here.
Yeah, and it slows them down. Again, they potentially can't deal with O setting up, where you can already see a really decent spot ahead of Veritas now. At least can hold Danny G outside the circle. So Sharpshot causing problems for a number of teams just by surviving here.
Just his mere presence causing problems. You can see in the kill feed as well, TSM using this as an opportunity to just cold push onto Sonics. They get the knock, they get the flush. And just like that, okay, Sharpshot does get spotted out. Kurt will go down. Alo is still alive. He's still the front man. Luke 12 just behind him. Snakers trying to see if he can see any of the Sonics players, but Luke gonna spot him out, keep him honest. And look at this reload, good angle onto a couple of the Veritas boys. Danny G has already been flushed. Second knock now onto JR. Lobes, the only one kind of keeping Oath from pushing.
To see now, obviously JR has fallen. Veritas can even recover from this situation, really. Gonna get the res off at least. This next circle, though, potentially forces them right on the edge of that high ground I was talking about. Now that Sharpshot's fallen, again, it's whether or not they can find any sort of comfort. You see, Lobes is playing for this wrap. He's playing to prevent Oath wrapping on the south side of the circle.
I don't feel like he has to, but Oath still has these vehicles that they can work with.
The problem is he's look, Kickstar's still not even in the next zone.
Ooh. Good trade from Lobes. Doesn't go down. That's huge for Veritas. That's going to be him realizing that Oath is making the push, feeding that information over to the rest of the boys. You can see JR and Ethan starting to come over here and look over in this direction. But as he said, all this going on outside of circle. Meanwhile, Luke 12 has wrapped around up to the higher side. He might be able to get an angle. They got the res. They got all three back up. Mime is now down. Shrimsy, the only one up for Sonics. And now here comes the push from Oath. One will go down. Kickstar gets knocked first. Lobes very low. Sonics does get finished off as Alo finds Shrimsy. Ethan goes down. A push from Oath as they want to take care of whatever's left here of Veritas. JR, the last one up. He gets spotted clean from Oath. And now TSM on the move as well. They're pushing their way up this hillside, but Oath has the high ground. Relo will go down to Luke 12. Well shot from the AUG. Purdy Curdy hiding in the high grass. But now they are fully aware that Luke is on this side angle.
See whether or not they can further pressure this damage already. TSM making use of the downtime. Luke's got a nade. He's got two nades and 3 mollies as well. If he can close the distance here, Poro, this is terrible for Oath.
Oh, this is bad, and he is 100% able, but he overshoots the grenade just a bit as Relo will get rezzed. Luke right on their side. Purdy will go down as he overpeaks just a little bit, but 2 are down for Oath. It's all up to Balefrost. The flashbang comes through. It's not enough. TSM get the first win of week 2.
What a fantastic finish there. Again, TSM, you got to say, arguably the team that had the worst transition coming in once that circle pulled back towards Sonics. But again, like I said, making use of that downtime perfectly, Poro. Not in terms of third partying, but at least taking the space when Veritas were keeping Oath occupied.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild that TSM was actually able to make that push onto Sonics as well as they were, but there was, I think it might have been the most fortunately placed crate of all time. The crate that landed kind of right in between TSM and put TSM basically right in grenade range of Sonics. And I think that's what basically forced Sonics to have to keep their heads down that whole time. I mean, they were getting shot at by Oath. They were getting shot at by TSM. There wasn't really anything they could do.
No, I agree. It is unfortunate. And again, I think that's another game we can look back at as a whole and talk about, you know, Sonic's potentially making plays that aren't, you know, playing towards their strengths. And I'm not saying that really there were the wrong decisions to make. Sometimes the circle, I mean, if it hard shifts towards you, you got to ride it out, right? You have to play there. You have to hold on to what you've got. There's no sense in pushing out into the chaos elsewhere in the circle. And those are really games where as soon as Sonics cross the road to the south side there, I don't think they've ever really got a fighting chance. They haven't got an opportunity to push uphill again. The fact that they even survive and cross to the south in itself is a miracle, right? But definitely not one of those power positions or the comfort positions that we talk about Sonics being in.
Yeah, I mean, the circle obviously favored them for a pretty good portion of that game, obviously, but then then having to push back down, as you said, that southern shift, just absolutely brutal. But again, it didn't favor either Sonics or TSM. So, you know, TSM finding a way to fight out of that bad position, while Sonics just kind of in a rough spot of their own, just kind of had to forced to stay prone. But you got to give credit to Oath as well. You know, as much as we gave them last week for performing poorly in the first half, it looks like they're still in last day form.
Well, you say performing poorly in the first half. Actually, when we were working together last week, actually, you know, game one, Oath actually came out and won that one. So
yeah,
potentially on the brink there of repeating their last week's successes. But yeah, it wasn't to be this time around. But that was definitely way more active, right? Way more decisive, way more confident from Oath. So I think you bang on the money in terms of carrying that momentum across, even though we're in a different week.
Absolutely. Well, we are getting those leaderboards all spooled up and ready to go, but we've got another game coming to you very, very shortly. So make sure you don't go anywhere. I think we're still waiting for things to come through. So I was just waiting for that voice of God in my ear, but we haven't got him just yet. But another thing that kind of stuck out to me from that game, we touched on it briefly, but there was just not really a whole lot of early game fighting, you know, on the way to Circle 1, which is something that we've seen be a real problem for a lot of these teams last week.
Yeah, I think so, and obviously, I mean, I kept coming back to this last week, and Kickstart particularly talking about tendencies and you know, anticipations of you know, the playing path versus that first circle rotation versus the first circle, right? I think this was a good example of how actually if things play out quieter, then actually that kind of chaotic circle pop becomes circle 3 and 4, which actually is a lot more problematic for some of the teams that have found themselves early positioning.
Sure, toning it down a little bit just to set up for late game shenanigans. Well, we are done with game number 1, and we will be back with game number 2 shortly. But before we do, we're going to take a quick break. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello everyone, my name is Pedro, but most people know me as Parkin, and I'm from Cabo Frio, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
My name is Curtis Bond, and my in-game name is Purdy Curdy, and I currently reside in Hayes, Kansas.
Meu nome é Marco Antônio, sou conhecido dentro do jogo como Necro QN e sou de Jandira, São Paulo. Acredito que desde a mudança do meta não tivemos nenhuma mudança nos nossos spots iniciais. Talvez alguns times tenham diferenciados, como ida para safe, forma como lemos o mapa e até tempo de loot, mas questão de drop spots mesmo, nada foi mudado.
My favorite melee weapon would probably be the pan, just for the little ding sound it makes when it hits somebody. It's probably the most enjoyable.
Of course, everyone's gonna answer Pan, but I like the machete. It looks like a sword, and a samurai sword, I like it. It's my favorite one.
Acredito que definitivamente o nosso estilo de jogo é agressivo. Desde o começo do ano passado, o Rexeira e o Kildemo, eles têm tentado impor esse estilo de jogo agressivo para ter uma boa adaptação ao antigo modo de jogo que era o Super.
I think our game style, we like to control the map, we like to have space and have really good lines and good options to make our play.
Very simple. It's just 2 words: calm and calculated. I don't think there's much more to it. We think about what we're doing, and we try and do it in a very calm and easy manner.
Just jumped out the plane. Don't matter what we landed, cause I'm about to bring pain. You don't wanna push me, John Wick with the aim. Told my girl that I'm sleep, but I'm really on the game. Real talk, I put my all in this. This the only game I play, man, it's obvious. Treat this game like it's really a sport. About to put your boy on the PUBG report.
Oh, he did it! You absolute mad lad.
It's pans, crossbows, and explosives.
You want to see that? Let's go.
Oh yeah. Let's get you leveled up. Damn, my setup sucks.
I did my time, or so I thought. Kill survivor one. Now it's your turn to hide.
One game down for the ESL PUBG Masters Americas, but 3 more to play. One in the desert and the rest on Orango. My name's Toffees. I am joined by Cameron and Clover as we break down all the action. And there was a lot to break down in that last game. In a second, we're going to run the highlights. And I want you guys to talk to me about how TSM and Oath, they changed it up this week. They both started wicked strong, like Samson strong, Cameron.
Yeah, we called out a bunch of these teams, a lot of the heavy hitters from North America and our expectations for not having the greatest of weeks last week, but you can just see that we talked about adaptation and just really being able to survive the fights throughout the mid-game. A lot of these top teams, TSM, even the Sonics and Oath, they didn't really lose any players throughout the mid-game. Dignitas can't necessarily say the same for them, but listen, when Akreche come across your position, you better be ready to fight because these boys will push anything and everything. So even though we saw a lot of North American teams in the late game, I don't think that's going to be the case for this entire weekend.
You know, and I want to give credit where credit is due real quick because No Chance was one of those teams that really wasn't doing much of anything last week. And I think we kind of all but wrote them off. So to see that good performance from them for this first match, 4 kills, I think more than we've really seen them full any game, was exciting to see. But as you say, I mean, a lot of teams who were really looking to step up brought their A game coming into this match. And I don't know if it's just the week kind of reset, starting things on Miramar, something in the water, but we really saw beautiful playing from TSM and from Oath. I mean, a big criticism that we had from Oath was that they were going into these games with their heads down. They weren't really getting a lot of scoring opportunities, and we didn't really see them bring that until the end. So for Oath to have that opportunity to get, I think, 13 kills this match was great. But I mean, TSM, so many throwables. They really had Oath backed into a corner here at the very end. I mean, it was a beautiful play, a beautiful, well-deserved win for TSM to start off the day.
Yeah, whenever Oath have the high ground, it's going to be a scary situation. And so it really was, I believe, a battle of inches there at the end between TSM and Oj. It was a great push that TSM were able to execute onto the high ground. It looked a little shaky once that revive came in, and it did make it to a 3-on-3, but that's where the spacing that TSM were able to take over after their fight against the Sonics to really keep Oath sort of pushed in the corner, shoved into the locker, and no chance of coming out alive.
Let's look at the kill leaders.
So good.
What do you got? What do you got, Clover? Okay, lay it on me.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's like the best of the best right here in terms of some of our fraggers that we tend to see over and over when we look at these lists, but it's all across the board. I mean, 3 members of Oath got 4 kills apiece. You had 3 members of TSM up there as well. I think Kickstart's the only one who actually just got 1 kill that game. But I mean, the damage really well spread across the board between these two teams to just show their dominant play, not only there at the very end of the game, but throughout the whole match.
I mean, 64 players dropped, 23 died to these two teams. TSM and Oath brought the pain. And I would say, you said Oath took the high ground, and normally that's an advantage, Cam. But I'm starting to think TSM, when they're on the low ground in the end game with all their throwables, maybe it's an advantage for them. Because I thought 100%, based on these numbers, these kill counts, this damage, that Oath was going to win. But ultimately, TSM relocated them back to the lobby and took a very important chicken dinner to start, right?
Yeah, again, I think that really comes down to the fact that TSM had more space under their control. It's harder to manage it when you're on the low ground. That's why the high ground is such an advantage. However, Oath's high ground was in a singular pocket, and then when you add on the fact that, I forget who exactly it was on Oath's end, peeked over for like half a second once I think the Sonics got removed in third place, and immediately got dropped down, giving TSM not only a spacing advantage, but now the man advantage. And when a revive is coming in, you know the timing is on the opposing team's side to then make the moves. If that knock didn't happen, we could have been seeing a completely different game. You replay that end game like 5, 10, even 100 times. I still think it's pretty 50-50.
Yeah. It's the way that they played. It's just beautiful to watch TSM's late game execution, Clover. And you said when we came into this is a team that needs to change things up. So what did they change that stands out to you as you sort of watch this game?
I mean, I want to also just say confidence in their own play. I think there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness. And it's not to say that some of these players can be cocky, but I think that if you, we've talked in the past about teams peeking hills to confirm a kill that they really don't need to pay attention to. They're kind of making plays or chasing things that they really don't need to early on. Instead, we really saw TSM kind of keep, their shoulders locked in a little bit more, kept themselves a whole lot more focused. We heard Poro talk about that crate and just how beautiful it was. But at the same time, they kind of had a player knocked out there. And Luke 12 finding a really great off angle to play from. But again, still kind of out in the open when you look at that high ground advantage point that Oath had. So what they really did here is they didn't kind of put themselves into one situation, but opened up their ability to play that from so many different angles. And they took that one slow and methodically. And I think that's why we saw the win at the end. I mean, Alo, close range. Yeah. That man is a beast, and that's the person you want to send up to Oath there at the end. So,
and it was sexy seeing like Luke 12 out there to the side, like keeping everyone down on Oath so that Alo could get close to become king. But on the other side of the coin, real quick, Cameron, Oath started very differently this week than they did last week, right? Like that's a massive kill count for game one. Does that give you some indicators?
Yeah, it gives me really big hope that Oath are playing in their pocket where they play best, which is what we saw at PCS4. They get a high ground position, and they just act like, I think Godspeed said, they just act like a turret, swiveling on everyone, shooting anyone, everyone, everything. A bird moves in that tree, shots going in that direction, and you just keep the oppressive nature. It is a little bit of a, shall we say, positioning necessary game style, but hey, we saw them move around chasing the circle a little bit this time, so it's not as binary as that statement might say.
Absolutely. Wide open. We saw a lot of other teams pop up. We saw Sonics in fourth. They got 5 kills, so a good start for them. Team Veritas was in the mix with 4, so it is still very open. 3 more games to play today. Let's see who comes out on top as we head over to our high priests of pontification, Hypoc and Porosaurus.
I don't know how to respond to that without being problematic, but thank you, Toffees. I appreciate it, and we will be the pontificators through this next game. But good to see another game in which we see Oath and TSM and Sonics and all the regular folks fighting it out. Well, that's rude to say, isn't it?
I mean, I know where you were going with that, right?
You know what I'm saying?
The cluster of disappointments last week. It's good to see them to be up in the late game, right? That's where you were going with that. You were wording it a little delicately, which is unlike
horribly.
You, actually.
Yeah, it was really weird. It was good to see TSM make it to the late game with more than with 4 up, make it past Circle 5.
Well, with just more than one person up, to be fair.
Yeah, and look, we'll see if the circles continue to play out the way they did, but it looks like, at least through game 1, that we've had a lot of adjustments made on the part of some of our NA squads. We'll see if Latin America can get it back on track for game number 2.
And yeah, we'll see this time around, hoping for something a little more central. I mean, the plane path, at least this time, a little more forgiving if we do see something up towards the northeast, towards Azahar once again. But we'll have to wait and see. Look, I was going to say, look at Leonis. Look at the massive overlap there with okay, Lobes is going to find one from the sky.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Oh,
let's start it off.
Good
like
way
that.
to kick things off, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, it's been we touched a little bit on this loosely on this round, and there you go. The circle gonna go right down there. But yeah, it's this kind of weird Veritas Fiumba east-west split of Los Leones when we've kind of become more accustomed to seeing a north-south split. But seems to be paying off dividends there, as Lobes will pick up a freebie. And No Chance now has to play with 3.
Which is tough. I mean, obviously got themselves in a decent spot last game. And I mean, it was good to see them kind of, innovate, right, in terms of trying to take that uphill battle with Crochet, and then obviously Oath further behind that. But things not really working out for them. But they were active, right? I mean, they were looking to pressure Dignitas initially, and you could argue that's in dead time, right? The fact that they weren't advancing towards that position, it's you talk about useless kind of damage and padding that out. There was one of those situations where it's like, well, capitalize on it, sure, but the fact that they weren't able to comfortably rotate into the next circle would raise a few red flags for me.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things I think been one of the primary criticisms of some of these more we'll just say less experienced squads that come in here. It's the decisions like that where you circles coming in, you've got to rotate, you've got all 4 guys that are still sitting right at the edge of the circle, and you're just ADR farming against the team that's already in circle, but they're also super far away, so it's like, yeah, maybe you get the knock, maybe you don't. If you do get it, maybe you don't even finish it. But so it's like, why are you doing that rather than focusing on your own game and trying to find position? That's the kind of thing that I think is throwing. Well, I mean, some guys big off.
Yeah, the big variable there is that there were multiple teams to the north, right? So if you're going to do anything, invest anything in that time. If you're not kind of securing that or at least looking to leapfrog in terms of that next rotation, at least secure your edge, because we know how difficult, particularly that previous circle is to kind of traverse south. But again, that's a work in progress. It's a longer discussion for another time.
True. Sure. And, well, I mean, if you want kind of an example of that, I think you can look back to Dignitas last game whenever they were getting pressured by Creche. We were like, hey, Honey Badger still on that north side.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think he was kind of keeping an eye on Young Kings. He knew that Young Kings and Dodge were up there that also had to rotate, and I think he was keeping an eye to make sure that they didn't come back and backfill them. So before he had to send it over. But they do end up losing one, and Dignitas actually going out first that game. Not a position that we're used to seeing them in, as they were scrapping last week, man. They're one of the few teams left that I feel like are still all about the fighting.
I feel like it's the Honey Badger effect, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we talk about obviously the previous rosters and kind of the ethos there and where the emphasis was in terms of fighting to the death for what you can get, and these early splits and things like that is broken. Out to 15 HP, will get punished for that one, trying to lay some shots into Veritas. It's actually Fiumba.
Fiumba.
I've seen that meme. I should have waited for a better one, man. That was I wasted it. I wasted it early.
It's okay. You can always come back.
There's plenty of time. There's plenty of games.
Exactly. Well, Veritas not taking too kindly to the shots from Cable, and they're going to crash right onto his compound and force him to bail on out. A few shots will come in from Ethan. No real damage done, though, as Cable will be able to get back to his other 2 teammates. We'll see where Fiumba is. They're kind of wrapping on the south side of No Chance here. You can see them just on your mini-map in that beautiful purple. Sills and Emmy finding the spot, and there you go. Another team that again, they don't care. They will take shots at you if you're rotating, and they will stop to do it, and they don't give a damn.
No, it is an interesting discussion as well, because I see the other side of it, right? If you can comfortably weaken another team regardless of the scenario, then if you're staying as 4 and you're putting as many other teams down to 3 as possible, sure. Can you be critical in those scenarios? No, you can't really. But again, it becomes, the waters become very muddy. It's a massive gray area in terms of how teams want to invest their time in the early game. I mean, You can make the same argument for a team that sits there and doesn't look to pressure teams, right? Ultimately, they're causing bigger problems for other teams by not weakening that team that drives past them.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of, TSM creeping up on 303 territory here. This might have been just a scouting stop for TSM more than anything, and it might turn out to be a little bit more than they can handle, as 303 just quietly playing right now. Trisk hasn't made a move just yet. TSM knows somebody's here. Penta, he's got eyes on that Bronco like a hawk. The rest of the squad already on the move. I think it's just Trisk here now. Yeah, TSM just hard pushing into the longhouse. Trisk, see if he had eyes on Penta making his way forward, if that maybe opens up a little bit of an opportunity for him to just get the hell out of there. But for right now, he's just playing it quiet. Well, there you go.
Okay, well, yeah, squirrel fault.
Good eyes on Penta. That was that's one of those risky things that TSM has just been running across in the early game, where last week maybe they take out one guy. This time a lot cleaner from TSM, making sure that they're staying disciplined with checking their angles and making sure that they clear that thing out.
And 303 obviously look to regroup, at least to recover from that initial loss. So they're going to head south away from TSM's compound, and everybody actually managing to get themselves inside this first circle. Gascan's the only one outside. They're coming in from Monte Nuevo. 22, you can see them still inside Los Leones, or at least now getting into Los Leones, I should say. But actually, yeah, a little bit of space down to the south side. So it's going to be risky if they try and move out towards the warehouses on the west, because we've already saw, obviously, Veritas and No Chance earlier, but Oath as well now set up on the north side.
What is going on?
And Sonics have their standard 2-2 split here. Everybody kind of used to, well, at least North American teams should be used to that split. We'll see if the Latin American squads have been doing their homework. You can see a couple of more teams kind of running into each other up on that north side. Crochet and Young Kings getting real close. We'll see if that pops off into anything substantial here shortly. But for the most part, everybody has found a home, and it's all just long-range shooting coming through.
Yeah, no real. It's actually looking like a Crochet want to get aggressive on this. At least they hear Young Kings in rotation. Actually, it's going to be TSM going to lay in the initial damage to force them off that and probably prevent that fight from happening. It's only half of a Crochet that did look to get aggressive on that, but at least trying to secure their edge.
Absolutely, and yeah, the shots from TSM might be just enough to keep Young Kings safe for the time being from that Crochet push. And ooh, Sparking paying the cost there for that little peek over the ridgeline as the 22 boys put some work into him. Should be okay though. We'll hop back in the Murado. We'll see where the circle pops, and oh my goodness, let's go south.
Okay. Well, I mean, we had a couple of hard shifts in the first game. Looking like we're going to start things off in game two the same way.
Let's start a trend. All right, well, Dodge, I got to say that spot that Vegas is in is looking real good for this late game. Of course, assuming that we don't see anything even crazier happen. That spot, very good stuff. There's still a lot of real estate open that these teams can work with, but they've got to be quick. They've got to get there, and they've got to not run each other over in the process.
Yeah. Did I just see another run over as well in the kill feed at exactly the same time?
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah, I did. Okay.
Vehicles, man.
We don't talk about those.
Yeah. Blame lag. You can't be a comp player without blaming lag at least, 1 or 2, 3 times a game, right?
So yeah, the 1 in 20 circumstances where you are allowed to call it.
Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it. As NC will take a few shots at Veritas and pass and Cable and Rizola. Don't do a whole heck of a lot of damage, so Veritas should be okay to regroup. The rest of Young Kings making their way past Oath, who have at least temporarily stopped in this very northernmost compound. We'll see if they decide to stick it out. Some more shots coming in from Veritas now that they have found a home. And it's really just long-range trading right now. The good thing about this part of the map is that it's fairly, I don't want to say easy, but it's less risky to do these big rotations right down the center of the circle just because of the terrain.
Yeah, and this part of the map in particular, very difficult to obviously keep onto your vehicles for starters and also not be punished. You can be slowed down so much here as Young Kings actually taking damage from Fiumba and Dodge. Pavlik's now trying to follow through. We'll take a few shots, but Vegas can't find the final hit.
I think the problem there from Young Kings was that the vehicle actually caught on fire, so it took a little bit too much heat, and they had to hop out and get taken down. So down to 2 for Young Kings as they split the map in east and west as they cut from north to south. They pay the price for it. Gas Cans, as you said, did the long rotation, late comers, and they finally make their way in. Now TSM slowly making their way in from the western side, doing a little bit of due diligence on what's waiting for them once they climb that mountain. I'm sure that they have an idea that the compound that Versus is in is occupied. They just want to make sure that nothing else is waiting for them up there.
So
what are you going to the island, though?
Do you know what? I was about to say, first off, we didn't take as many casualties in that hard shift that I was expecting. We were hyping up the terrain there to be treacherous, and still at 16 teams. We're still at 60 alive. So, a grand scheme of things, we take those on such a, I've got to say, brutal shift away from where the main cluster of teams were situated, right? Obviously, the southwest corner of Leonis, where we would expect to see the most kind of crossover, but
oh my.
Okay, well, yeah, if you're TSM, you're loving that wrap, right? You're loving that little west wrap to get inside the circle.
That has paid off some big dividends for them. Gas Cans as well. The slow playing rotation has worked out pretty nicely as they have that intersection compound all locked down to themselves. Now Versus and Troglodytes off to the north may cause problems, and this might be where the problems start. Oh, the tire goes, and Hasten hits the brakes. He's got 1 HP, and that's not going to be enough to get him past Dodge. Hallow Senpai cleans him up, and now it's Hikerman and the rest of the Gas Cans that form the next part of the firing line. They'll find Biznaga. Biznaga gets wiped. The rest of 22, well, the 22 members, they'll make it under the bridge where they'll camp like trolls for the foreseeable future. That's what lives under bridges, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh no, Luke can see his medic as well. Oh, okay, he does it. Yeah. We'll get the first. I made a little bit of damage onto the second. No way. Okay.
The headshot. All right, I was about to make fun of him for taking 3 shots. But Luke does not take too long.
He never misses a fourth.
That young man.
He never misses a fourth. That's what they say about Luke, isn't it?
Exactly. It's like you might miss the first 3, but you let him take that 4th shot. That's on you.
He's always good for. Whoa, dig.
I mean, they got the knock. They got the knock. Punich got the knock with the bolty on the Poblex, and now they're 4-man pushing into Young Kings. Flux has the long building to hold on to. These long buildings are a little bit Monka. And oh no, Honey Badger gets spotted out by Keenan. So Dig, after making the hard crash, they're going to lose one for free.
Yeah, punish
right
now.
outside
Oath,
the compound, man.
Yeah, Oath are going to wrap around and potentially get in front now. Actually, 2 members of Crescia set up a roadblockers well down on the roadside here. Nobody from Oath falling. Kickstart. Give them a little hello on the way past.
A little meat.
Why would Crash be set up like this if they didn't want to punish rotations exactly like that one from Oath?
Maybe it has something to do with the fact that the other 2 of that 2-2 split is now currently bleeding out on the bridge side. Maybe they just got the call to play it safe rather than
maybe
do the camp. Yeah. I guess. I don't know. That's the only thing I can really think of. Meanwhile, TSM is just farming damage onto Oath right now. Anybody who decides or dares go underneath that bridge And it does not look like it should change anytime soon as we get to see where this next circle. There's no way it could go worse, right? Okay.
No.
There we go. There we go.
I mean, why would you even set yourself up to potentially jinx that? Like, there's no way, right? I've never seen this one go south.
Why would I ever do that? Why would I ever do that? It looks like actually I couldn't see this because the colors are so similar, but no chance in SSG running into each other on the edge. SSG takes down RDS 149. Balkan's very low. Can't even get the grenade off before Sharp Shot gets the knock in. Cable, though, nice little flank up on the hillside. Well, he takes the shot, though, and they are now fully aware of his presence. Rizola already down to 43 HP. The grenades are coming through. Shots do more damage, but Poonage gonna be killing his own team. Never mind. That's not what I was looking at. Sharp Shot and Uncivil come and clean up. That's gonna be no chance. Taken out cleanly. What the hell happened to Dignitas?
I don't know. I'm looking down at the compound now at the map, and there's lots of different colors on top of each other. You can see here, Flux now can find one knock downhill, but runs back through the fire. He should be able to still escape. And Shinboy upstairs on the balcony. I don't know what happened downstairs. Maybe Poonage got knocked with an A because he confirmed himself and not sparking, right?
Yeah, that seems like the most likely culprit there is Young Kings. Will try to take care of the last remaining member of Dignitas, but he does damage. Shinboy does go down, and Young Kings will keep 2 up, and they know that Akreche is right underneath them. I think Zflux, or it might have been Publix, actually got the first knock as Akreche got that res off. We see some more fighting going on. Oh, nice spray. We'll take him down yet again. And now KSH actually already on the move. So that is going to be it for VHC. Akreche back down to 1. Sonics, meanwhile, looks like H went right on the doorstep of Dodge. The rest of the boys still hanging out off to the north.
Yeah, it's again, well, I mean, expectations wise with this next circle, it could create some problems for Dodge because Sonics, you see already trying to make moves south. Actually, it's H-Win to be the one to kind of spearhead that. And he's going to take a lot of ground towards the compound here. I'm not sure Dodge have any idea of the possibility somebody could be this close. Now, obviously, you can see already Hello Senpai sending shots towards the 3-stack of Sonics, but this could cause a problem because nobody's playing the warehouse on the left side.
Yeah, I'm looking at their little Doritos and looking to see if they're looking over towards Veritas. They're kind of looking all over the place, but there's no way that they know that Veritas is right on their doorstep here. They might have a suspicion, but they haven't spotted anybody because you would think that they would be probably putting more attention over towards that. Meanwhile, TSM has sent Purdy. Of course they've sent Purdy. Kurt cannot be kept far away as the circle does pop, and he will claim that spot for the rest of TSM. Oath, for their part, have managed to keep all 4 up, despite getting pressured from TSM from range for that long. They have not really lost anybody, but you got to imagine they're probably pretty beaten and busted right now. And there you go, Poblex will sneak up on Keenan. Will get the knock, but won't get the flush before he's immediately turned upon.
Yeah, that's just going to be able to recover that one fairly easy. Lots of space to the north, and still one Young King and one member of Akreche down to the south of them. But now, the next question comes if SSG have any portion of that high ground to play. Kurt, now, actually, Halo's been knocked here. They are going to get the res back at the compound over to the west, but we've already said Kurt has managed to secure this forward position. I'm interested to see if TSM are going to opt to fight in this circle. Because obviously if they try and move all the way towards Kurt, I think they have no choice but to.
Yeah, their options are going to be pretty limited here. As Kurt...
Yeah, Kurt's going to try and open up with a nade.
Oh! Usually you expect those to be right on time from Kurt, but that's a little bit of a tougher position to try to throw it down into. The second one actually finds a nice little spot there, but now that lets Oath know, hey, there's a guy right on our damn doorstep. Yeah. We got to pull back a little bit, and that opens up the door for the rest of TSM to get right in time in there. Penta, the only one that they're waiting on still. Gas cans looked like they might have been creeping out over here. You could see Greg Shot getting real interested. We'll see if they start sending some nades over in that direction. Meanwhile, Versus has to leave their high ground position off to the west, and they are sending it right down the middle. They'll take shots from Sonics, they'll take shots from Trog, but they're not going to lose anybody, I don't think. They keep all 4 up.
I think actually the saving grace is Sonics don't want Dodge to know where they're set up, right? So that's why we didn't see an awful lot of pressure coming out from Sonics. And this is just the problem I was talking about, right? Dodge now have so much to worry about with the circle kind of cutting this out. They have to deal with Veritas here. The second molly actually good from Vegas. Hope's going to take a little bit of damage from that sharp shot at distance. But now Dodge, they barely have anything to hold on to here.
And the problem is that they can't over peak on the Veritas because SSG keeps taking shots over their heads. So Dodge beaten and busted right now, trying to make their way down and clean up whatever's left of Veritas. Lobes will get spotted out. Danny G gets spotted as he's making the throw. Finna will find him, but Ethan will clean him. And then there you go. Ethan does get spotted out. Killed Demo actually going to be the one that gets that one. And now Hello Senpai, 1 HP. Okay, he's avoiding. That's just fire from the vehicle, no fire from Molotov. Circle, though, will pop and it's going to go off to the west yet again. So Dodge is going to have to get back on the move. Sonics in the same boat. Sharp shot, just shooting through the smoke.
I mean, Roth just managed to find that knock. I'll be screaming for somebody to try and confirm it, but there's a chance, actually, the TIG gets rezzed here.
It looks like it.
Yeah, I think actually comfortably. Unless that was that was Mime. He was split towards the warehouse. So Sonic, I mean, they need to make moves. They haven't got an awful lot of time to do it. So if they do want to get these reses, to think about moving swiftly. I'm not sure the vehicle situation now. Obviously, with all this pressure coming in from a far power, it's going to be awkward, to say the least, for Sonics to move any further south.
Well, it couldn't get much awkward than this. SSG gonna 4 deep, man, throw it. I didn't even know the words that I was saying right there. They're gonna throw it over to the ramp, and they're gonna find a Versus just waiting for them. They had no idea. They thought that this was free. Jube will go down. Damage done from a grenade, but SSG, just like that, gets immediately taken out, and now Dodge is going to send it right into the same spot. There's 4 dead bodies here. This has got to be a good place to be, right? No chance that this is going to get shot at again.
Well, I mean, initially they've been able to set up, right? It's only 2 members left of Versus now. A little bit of utility invested from Hello Senpai down the hill.
Oh,
this seems to have paid off.
Yeah. I don't know how, but sure. Dodge getting to hang out of here for the time being in the smoke cloud. Gas cans did most of the damage to Space Station, but haven't really opened back up on this. Meanwhile, Versus down to just T-Plants as the flush comes through. Trogloditas now having to worry about Sonics as they're fighting up on the north side. Gascan's kind of overseeing all of this. Dodge trying to get rid of this last member of Versus, and look at Sonics annihilating Trogloditas. The damage, a little bit of damage done though. They do have 1 knocked as the blue is encroaching.
Yeah, they're considering going for that res, but H1 will be left to fall. And Dodge having okay. I was going to say massive problems as Vegas had somebody on top of him there. He's going to continue to be the smoke criminals here, but Sonic's now a decent idea of where both Lampalot and Vegas are inside these smokes.
They're just sending all type of bullets in there. And T-Plants, for his part, is doing a damn good job of being a snake here. Like, he is just surviving. Up until then. I had to say something to make it awkward. Gas cans looks like they've finally decided to start taking shots or found some kind of line over here on the Lampalot. TSM and Oath, both still alive as well. Both still 4 strong. I guess a peace accord has been reached after all the fire that came down their way earlier. They're just going to share for the time being. Oh, Tiggleton. Tiggleton with a mini. That's just terrifying. Look at what he got the knock through to, of all things.
Yeah.
Good lord. All right, well, gas cans leave their compound, take a little bit of fire from Purdy, but not enough to do any real damage. Sonics have to send it in the vehicles. Where are you going to send it to?
The bridge. No way.
Actually on the bridge.
I love this. I only love this if they don't all die, but this is actually great.
Where else are you gonna go? I mean, Tig will get spotted out by Greg Shot. Will go down, most likely not going to get rezzed, and the rest of the Sonics boys. Yep.
What was that?
Now they're.
What was that?
it was something. I mean, where else are they going to go? Really? I mean, every spot is occupied. This is.
The problem is Gascan's the only team, right, that nobody is going to be shooting at. They have the freedom to come out and pressure that, but I mean, Sonics will keep to. No, they won't. No, they won't.
Nope.
They will not.
From the land of spoke too soon, it is High Pocket Porosaurus says Sonics has gone down, and we are left with our top four.
really wanted that to work. I don't know if you picked up on that.
It was such a clever play. Would have loved to have seen something go their way on that one, but unfortunately not the case. But they will make top 5 yet again. And now Dodge slowly creeping. But they're not in circle here. This is not great.
No, they have a little bit of defilade, I think, just to the south of them here, but it's not going to be safe from Oath. If Oath kind of spot them, I mean, with all these smokes here, this is difficult. Yeah, they're literally just going to get free farmed.
Oof. Headshot coming in from Kickstart, and as you said, I mean, the problem here is that none of these 3 other teams can even shoot at each other. So I mean, everybody gets to pretty much freely peek at this as long as they want. So Hellas Empire will go down. Vegas will stay alive for the time being. Gas Cans has an angle on this as well. It looks like Hellas Empire will get a steal, and Reload going to make him pay for it though. He gets the knock and the flush. So Gas Cans overreaching just a little bit. New circle pops. Gas Cans, well, they got to leave.
They do. Again, that's a similar situation to Dodge, right? Whether or not they have anything to play along the roadside here. As Heikeman going to find Vegas, that should free up a little bit of space for Gas Cans to at least explore the possibility. And with Kurt being kind of this deep anchor position, don't expect him to shoot on first contact with Gas Cans. He's going to try and slow play this. Looks like Nikos is already aware of somebody hugging the edge.
Yeah, Kurt's been taking shots from over here. I think he's got to bail off of that for sure. And actually, Nico's going to spot him, and Luke will give his IGL some support there. But this is actually the way that this is playing out, just because of the circles. All of a sudden, this is looking real good for Gas Cans. It's looking like TSM and Oath might be forced into fighting underneath that bridge, and we might. Are we going to have a heal off?
No smokes left.
We might have we might have a bridge heal off.
No way. There's no shot.
Oh my god! He just barely gets onto the ridge line.
He's dead to that though, surely. Oh! Okay, he managed to get the first aid off just before it popped. A lot of smokes invested here. Alo actually coming across to try and help the cause and allow Kurt to regroup at least. And Oath just chilling right now, just gathering all this information. Adam and Heikeman, though, they've managed to make it across to the east side of the road, and that's the exact spot I was talking about with Vegas falling. And they're leaving the door open for Gas Cans to at least explore.
I mean, look at the ridge line.
The split is perfect here. Yeah. I gotta say it for Gas Cans. This is looking really good.
I mean, they just have to play it safe. I mean, the dot is right in the middle of the road right here. I have no idea how this is going to play out, Hypoc.
Well, I mean, I'm seeing TSM still with utility, shocker. But they did invest a lot of smokes to try and get Kurt back there. Right now, you've got to look at that as potentially weakening their potential to kind of sustain, right, to run the clock down and close this distance. But I mean, putting damage in like this might not even need that. You could say the same thing for Oath, right? They haven't really fought an awful lot, so maybe their utility position is a little bit better. This is the last smoke from Alo here. One molly left. I'm not sure of the other situation. Hikerman
on time with the grenade, finds the double knock. and they're going to take some shots over towards Oath. Oath actually reading that as well, and they're sending their own nades over towards TSM, and they're going to find another knock. As actually Greg Shot going to be the one that gets the knock on a Purdy. Luke 12 down to about 25 HP. Oath pushing up over the top through the smokes. Hikerman will go down to a nice grenade from Relo, and now Hikerman will flush out Alo. Relo, rest of Oath just working the edge of the smoke line. Adam trying to stay behind the US, but he's gonna shoot the toesies right underneath. Doesn't get the knock though. He's got to reposition.
Oath's still 4 up here. If they can close the distance, Hikerman's down. This smoke cover eventually gonna...
Luke's still in it.
Luke's still in it here. He's just spamming utility into these smokes. He wants to make sure the gas can's full, but with Oath still 4 strong, you got to argue they're the ones. Hikerman actually back on his feet now.
Oh my goodness, they get that res off. Purdy actually, or not Purdy, Penta as a downed player going up on that roadside to try to feed information, but he doesn't see Hikerman or Greg Shot as gas cans get that flush, and they will take over this ridge line, and it's just going to be a peak battle on the ridge line. Kickstar will go down to Balefrost. Oh no! And now Relo's gone down. Snaker's trying to work his way around the edge of the smoke. He's going to get to there. He's going to find one knock, but immediately gets traded down. It's all down to Balefrost as he finds another one. It's a 1v1. 1v1 once the smokes are dying. Adam hiding behind Relo. Adam wins it. Gas cans get the 14 kill win.
That ending was absolutely insane. I mean, gas cans looked like they were set up perfectly to win that comfortably.
Oh my goodness.
And the important word being comfortably. What the hell was that? Balefrost. I don't know what happened with Oath there. Balefrost knocked Kickstar. Then he was on fire through a friendly molly. Then Snaker flanks around to the blue, finds a knock, and then Balefrost finds another 2. That was absolutely insane, Poro.
If you play that same exact ending out 10 times, you might get 10 different results. I mean, coming down to a 1v1 in that's about and the funniest part was that Adam was using Relo as cover.
Yeah, and I don't even think Relo knew. He was like inside the smoke, and at least it didn't look like Balefrost reacted to that information initially. But wow, what an ending! Absolute gift. That's like a 1 in 20 game of PUBG there, where everything just goes wrong for all teams involved there. Initially, it looks like gas cans are just gonna close out with ease, and it comes down to this fantastic engagement. I absolutely love that.
It's so funny. That's like, I thought you were leading up to be like, this is one of those amazing end games. You're like, this is one where everything went wrong, and it was literally just who all was left at the end of it. But man, it took some time to get to that point. You gotta say, I mean, the hard shifts in general so far, at least on Miramar, have been absolutely brutal.
Yeah, it obviously we talk about the initial south shift, which, like I said, there weren't as many casualties as I was maybe expecting for that. Looking at where the teams were positioned for that circle one, that massive cluster on the west side of Leonis, and a few teams still scattered off to the north. I was really, really surprised that we didn't see more people fall in that one. And weirdly enough, like we were talking about the terrain, right, with how many teams that then had to move further and further south. It was surprising really to not see as many of those kind of mid-game engagements where we see these ridge battles and back and forth and like that. So sure. A real credit to some of the teams that were able to last as long as they did down on the south side, at least towards the bridge. Yeah,
I mean, I can't remember what our end leaderboard looked like in terms of kills, but I know Gascan's got 14 just from being in that compound. I mean, we looked at TSM and Gascans as one of those ones that were there are two of those ones rather that took that time to come around and make that long wrap and come in late on that south side. Ends up paying off in a big way. Well, that's game 2 out of the way at Hypoc. Let me tell you something. If there's one thing more exciting than the finish of that game, it is Tago. Tago, you guys asked and PUBG listened. There's a new 8x8 map available to play on the PUBG servers now, and it is Tago. So get in there and get playing that game. But guys, we will be right back after this short break to set us up for game number 3.
Joey, wake up. I want to play some PUBG, man. Joey, wake up, man.
Yeah, I'm
play
ready.
Some games.
I'm ready to play some PUBG, man.
Welcome back to the ESL PUBG Masters Americas. Game 2 is in the books, where the boys prove that gas cans move early, gas can hold a compound, and gas cans win. They need to. Congratulations to them and to TSM for making it into that Final Four, as well as Oath for the second time, as the big boys have clearly shown up to play. Cameron, thoughts on that game as we get ready for highlights?
I mean, you already sort of teased it. Oath in second place 2 games in a row. It's only been 2 rounds, only halfway through the very first day of 3. But for, you know, I know that they're hoping that this doesn't become a trend.
I mean, a trend in a way, potentially. But I mean, as we talk about now, before we started today, a big thing that we talked about was consistency. A lot of our talk was about LATAM because we saw what LATAM was able to bring, but at least thus far, 2 Miramar games in, it really seems like LATAM's kind of struggled a bit into the late game. But what we have seen is a big growth from those North American teams that struggled a lot last week. Oath finally finding their way to get big kills and that late game presence. TSM showing up finally for the late game, now 2 in a row. But I mean, gas cans as well. Last week, we kind of saw them find their way into those weird, awkward positions where I want to say it might have been Godspeed who said, you kind of forget that gas cans is there until suddenly you're in phase 7, phase 8, and you realize all 4 are up in a compound. And that's kind of what we saw for them this match.
Well, then suddenly they were spring loading out and getting 14 kills, right? At least last week, and they got a couple of wins. They had really good position in order to execute on opportunities that they found in the very final few moments, but they would usually only win with single digits and even lower ones for the most part. Here they found themselves in a really, really solid position to just clean up a bunch of kills, and that's one of the, I guess, features is a nice way of spinning it for the way that their circle just swung down towards the south so many different times. But I also want to take note of how specifically TSM and Oath played around that bridge. That was such a crucial part of the game all the way till the very end. Oath, they took refuge below the bridge very early on as a number of teams all just tried to send it all in. But when TSM pushed in from the east side, they realized that they couldn't control both, you know, entrances to the under bridge. So they faded away, went towards the east. They let TSM have the west, because if they tried to stay under and defend from TSM, there's a big chance that a team like from Dodge's position would have just sent onto them and totally collapsed onto Oath's position. So definitely seeing a lot of teams how they move around and decide what they need to give up in order to really guarantee their safety and clear, consistent control.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about those positions where we're seeing right here, that place that Dodge had. The only place they really could have gone from when the circle closed was onto Oath. And you kind of see Dodge go, nah, that's not really the play here either. And unfortunately, made it easy picking off for gas cans, pardon me, to come into that fight. Started it off with 7 kills, ended on 14. And there was a brief moment here. We kind of thought Oath might let TSM and gas cans play this out, keep their head down, but then things just started to go massively wrong. Kickstart accidentally knocked by Balefrost. It's not the way you want to go. You kind of got it down to this 1v1 between Adam and Balefrost, and ultimately just a bit of spray and pray through what was kind of out of what's left of these smokes gave that win to gas cans. But it was really close. I mean, we were screaming while we were watching this match in the green room.
It was absolutely beautiful. Let's take a look at the match standings. I got to give a shout out to Balefrost, who tried to use the hip fire, but it didn't quite work out. He got put on ice. And you got to respect that swap, right, Cameron? He didn't go for the reload. He went for, I got to make this play, and it almost panned out. Kill leaders, Sharp Shot, Hollow Senpai, and a whole lot of gas.
Yeah, Oath actually aren't up here because even though, like I said, they were under the bridge, right? Mm-hmm. And so even though they wanted to go towards the east side and actually really try and maintain onto that control, it was still on the low ground, all things considered. Mm-hmm. They weren't in a position that Dodge were earlier on in the game. They weren't in a position that Gas Cans were on, that they could basically capitalize on the necessity for a bunch of other teams with no other option but to try and send it in. We saw what happened to Sonics. They got completely torn apart, but that was from the teams that had the higher elevation.
Walk me through the head-to-head, Clover.
I mean, you go number 2, number 3, Gas Cans and Oath. Now, something to point out real quick. All 14 of these kills that Gas Cans have thus far this weekend came from the second match, the one that we just saw. This is more kills than they had on all of Miramar combined from last week. So a really big step up for Gas Cans. Again, we know that they have no problem making an appearance in the late game, but what they did have a problem with before last week was finding those scoring chances. Kind of, again, though, like just to fall back real quick a little on what Cammy said with Oath went into that final fight with only 4 kills.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of more of the Oath that we were seeing last week and not necessarily, I think, the Oath we saw that first match.
Yeah, it was a combined head-to-head from both games, but it was kind of like 1 game of Gas Cans and 2 games of Oath in a lot of ways. I want to pivot. I have a question for you, Cameron.
Yep.
After game 1, you mentioned to me in the green room that game 1 didn't really have a bunker position, and a lot of teams sort of had to play aggressively or movement. Did game 2 have a bunker position, and how did that affect sort of the late game? How does that affect late games, bunker versus non?
Yeah, they had a lot of bunker positions. There were significantly more compounds throughout the middle of that game. When you're looking down towards the south, as I mentioned, Dodge had one that they could just sort of kneecap transitioning teams. Gaskins definitely had one going in towards the late game, and even Oath, they didn't get a lot of kills. It was still a safe, secure place that was difficult for a number of teams to try and oust them from that position. And so those basically 2 sides of Miramar, looking at those first 2 games, totally different ways that you actually have to play around it. And the biggest difference is that early positioning is a lot more powerful in the second game that we saw. In the first game, there were opportunities for teams pushing in on the edge to step by step clear out in front of them. It's a lot more of a chess rotational positional game in the second time around, which is where we saw a lot of teams struggle. They struggled in a sort of blaze of glory, again, like Sonics, but it was still a little bit of a Hail Mary that they were forced to push themselves into.
Well, the Sonics had to push between 3 bunkered teams in terms of Dodge, TSM, Oath, and actually Gas as well. I want to real quick, what's up with Dodge? They were so close on both these games. I think 6th and 4th respectively. Where are we at?
I mean, again, kind of like what Cam said, those other teams just had those perfectly hunkered down positions. And as we saw, that circle was closing. Vegas, the last player up for Dodge, didn't really have anywhere to go that they couldn't be seen. I mean, the only play that Dodge had was to send it to one of the other teams. In that case, the best option would have been Oath in front of him. And even if they had sent it, like we saw with Sonics, there was no guarantee that they were going to come out on top with everybody surviving. So unfortunately, the circle just not in their favor. As again, we saw kind of had that high ground slope towards those teams that were bunkered down. But now we're switching things up on Erangel, and there's good opportunities here for Dodge.
New map, new opportunities. Dodge and Sonic still on the cusp. Let's do it. Let's go now live to the kings of the cast. It is Porosaurus and Hypoc.
Hello again. We are back. What is going on, chat?
What is
so
going
far?
on?
What is going on? I'm not sure. That was I left myself asking myself that question. I got there eventually after that last finish. As there were 3 4-man teams all vying for the final dot through the smoke, through the fire, through the clouds, and in the end, Adam comes out on top for Gas Cans. Worth mentioning, man, we haven't really touched on Gas Cans a lot, but they have been pretty good at finding the late game. 2 wins last week. The kill count a little bit low, as Clover was mentioning, but you know, this is pretty good look for Gas Cans, I gotta say.
It is. I mean, you look at obviously Fiumba's early results in terms of making it to the late game, and until they finally got that win on the board, you could argue that, you know, actually they're due a win, right? We come back to that phrase so often in PUBG where a team is kind of trending towards doing so. And I feel like that's Gas Cans, at least through the first two games here, and looking as if they're I don't want to say playing more passively, but at least, you know, riding things out a little quieter than maybe we'd usually see them.
Well, once again, we get a nice, decent plane going across, so Gas Cans should be able to find their normal looting spot over across on Military Island, and everybody else should just about be able to find wherever they want to go as we wait and see what the circle decides to give us. TSM and Versus a little bit close to each other, but I think Versus probably should know exactly who that is that they're hovering around, and may just want to give them those vehicles and dip on out. Ooh.
Yeah, as the circle woes will continue. We had a fairly vanilla plane path, and it's about as far. Okay.
Okay.
Well, nothing else matters right now except for this.
Well, he's got a tree. That's all he really needs, isn't it? Just get you a tree and you'll be fine. Yeah, T-Blends doesn't want to.
Well,
like, yeah,
gonna get a gun in the wizard tower.
Oh.
It's over.
Well, we will.
Okay, well.
Take your choice. Which shotty would you like?
Drive-by DBS?
Please. Please.
Oh, no. I hope that teammate has a gun, because this could be two. This could be 2 kills if he tries to pick him up.
Oh, no.
Okay, well.
Okay. Well.
Oh, he's going to arrest him.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, he's gonna. Oh, the Vector. They've actually gone on the hunt. And I don't see a gun. I don't see a gun in that other teammate either. T-Pleds, switch it up. Come on, you got this, DBS.
I need to see a clean pit maneuver here.
Oh. Yeah, he's giving him the honk. He's letting him know you got away with one there, buddy.
You bested me.
The bubble around my buggy was not enough to find the pit maneuver. Unfortunate. But speaking of unfortunate, this is Stalber circles, man. They always seem to play out very, very slowly.
Really, what a piping hot take.
You like that?
Is. Yeah. You got any more of those? You got a little book.
Yeah, I do. If Gas Cans wants to take over first from TSM, they're gonna need to get a couple of more kills.
Okay. Yeah. You could say a few more kills.
Ooh, a few indeed.
Well, a couple is 2, a few is 3.
I can't hit them all with all of this S tier hot esports takes all at once. You know, I got to spread them out.
You don't want to use them up all on one game.
No, not at all. You gotta save some for later.
Okay, well here's mine. Lots of teams need to make it into this circle.
It's true. It is very true. It is very true. Actually, if jokes aside, one of the things I am kind of interested in seeing is how many teams decide to try to wrap north, especially from that western side.
Well, it's yeah, and this is always interesting to see what TSM do on circles like this, right? Because we know how much they like to harass over on the west side here, especially towards obviously. I always think back to obviously last year with what was going on with ATC. But whether or not on a circle like this, they look to kind of at least keep track of some of these teams that do opt to wrap on the west side. Now, looking at the teams that are down there, it's already one that's going to be, I guess, slowed down with obviously that initial. Can you call it an engagement? I guess scuffle.
Yeah, just flexing, I guess. Casual flexing. JR, you can't be the guy that flips the vehicle and the guy that's holding onto an ump. All right, you be one or the other.
Yeah, one or the other.
You can't be both.
Pick a side.
Actually, Badger gonna hear those vehicles rolling right past him as he goes and collects what is left off of this crate. Looks like.
Hold up. Is the leaderboard broken? Did Dig not have a kill yet?
Oh no. That's shocking, actually, compared to how many kills they were able to pull up last week. Yeah, it's. I mean, they went out in first in game number 1, and then game number 2 they kind of got run up on, and I think they probably have more knocks on each other than they do on other players at this point.
They probably.
Almost thought I snuck that.
Nice. Yeah. No. It nearly did. It nearly went. Yeah. I mean, I was actually just confirming with production the leaderboard is not broken. But yeah, nearly slipped through. Nice. Well played, sir. Yeah, I mean, the interesting the interesting thing to see, I mean, the two teams I usually look for on the circle like this is Oath and TSM, which are the two teams kind of on the extremities in terms of drop spots. And Oath actually already making, in my eyes, a move a little earlier in terms of, you know, tendencies of when they would move for a circle like this. And I'm actually also seeing TSM do actually hop on board. It's going to get some company towards Cube, or at least towards the bridge itself, and Penta is going to go ahead and cross here. Yeah. Now, the problem being, I mean, TSM are going to spread, but ALO taking a little bit of damage, actually. I'm not sure if they're going to try and isolate one of these kills. But TSM will at least be able to get across the river, and surprised, again, I say surprised to see them rotating like this is usually at this point in the game, they'll be gathering a lot of information and making these kind of calculated decisions. So maybe Versus throwing a spanner in the works there. And I know you love that phrase.
Oh, I love that phrase. That's my favorite. It's my absolute favorite. I got to say, though, and you touched on it a little bit here with the fact that TSM, we know that TSM on a circle like this will try to wrap north. The fact, though, is that there's so many other Latin American teams that are wrapping in that same direction. And the fact that through last week, we've gotten so used to seeing them engage in these early fights and stop down for these early fights. That's kind of what I was interested in seeing what would happen with them.
Yeah, and just talking back to, obviously, you know, historically, right? These are the sorts of teams that do actually throw TSM kind of off balance.
Right.
Obviously, TSM have shown in the past they're great at reading teams and doing their homework and setting things up. But, you know, you could argue that actually some of these LATAM teams are a little more volatile, a little harder to read, right? And maybe that's going to force a change. TSM are going to have to, I say respect it, but at least not even kind of entertain the possibility of any of that early game chaos.
Yeah, looks like they've made it through Severny. I'm not sure if they spotted out Troglodytes or if they just had an inkling, but they started to roll up a little bit farther north. They're going to roll into Sonics, and a few scary shots from Mime will be enough to push them away, push them back down towards the coast. But Versus now backfilling right around that same area, so TSM kind of in a no man's land situation right here. And there you go, this is what we're talking about. Versus, they will come up right on top of you and try to take the fight, but Penta will finally opening down on a Grappo, and that will be it for him. The rest of Versus turn it around, start heading back in the direction in whence they came. T-Plants, though, heading towards the beach. Okay, so he's not going to keep going in.
Thank God.
It looked like it for a second. I was like, T-Plants, are you trying to go on a one-man solo mission here? But does not do so. So TSM do get involved in an early scrap, but once again, they come out with a kill and all four up.
Say a little, okay, I'm just saying, yeah, I thought Sonics were pretty stacked up towards where mine was, at least last time I looked at them on the map.
Yeah, they had two there.
You see they've spread very thin, actually. I mean, Edgewood and Shrimsy set up towards No Lean.
Ooh.
Playing off potentially a good spot for a Northwest Shrink, and would you look at that?
You can see the second that circle popped, he just started shooting his gun. He's like, please, God, don't anybody crash me. Wait for my team to get here, please.
Man, these circle twos today.
It's just been brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal.
Nutty.
Nutty indeed. Well, it looks like Sonics will get away with it. They send one up, but they're not actually gonna send all four. They're gonna keep a 2-2 split between little junkyard spot and the. We have a name for that house up there where Mime was. Not sure.
I mean, I just used to call that SDK.
SDK. Okay. Well, there you go. 2-2 split between SDK and the junkyard.
That's from like SDK 70 drop days, so
it's been a while.
Yeah. It's been a hot minute.
Just a bit. Well, a lot of teams opting for this western rotation path, and it is going to be brutal here. It looks like only a couple really going to the east, and That should keep them safe for now, but SSG, you can see already running into fire as they're going to cut between 303 and Sonics, and TSM actually branching out of the gas station, and they're going to run right into him. Keenan goes down after Uncivil gets picked off, having to leave. Roth, the only one up now, and he is just hovering around, taking some what? Sharp shot? Sharp shot snuck up? Oh no!
They just traded back 2 here, and obviously TSM playing a little bit split with the gas station and the plateau here. We're going to get punished for this.
Was that, in your opinion, is that gas station dip split greedy, doing a 2-2 on a circle like this?
You could argue they're playing to punish these rotations, and the only thing that is a problem for them is they don't do enough damage, and the team is able to pull up on them, right? Or at least, you know, the remnants of a team is able to. So I don't know, it's too greedy or a little, dare I say, miscalculated. At this stage of the game, you see the shift. If it's me, I'm making sure the 4 survive. That's my sole priority.
Yes, that's kind of where I was going with that. I mean, if you're at least playing from 4 from the gas station, you can try to make that approach onto the dip at a later point with 4 up and still have a bunch of utility to use. But now, in a bad spot, 2 in the gas station, and that's all you got. We'll see where Dodge decides to go as they're slowly backfilling around gas cans, and here's the push. Sharp shot just breezing on through, and what a spray. Roth actually doing some damage, actually gets the knock on a Halo, but that was beautiful stuff from Sharp.
Synergy there. You can't teach that.
That is good comms coming out from that duo. SSG does lose 2 in the process, unfortunately. But I think they'll be happy with keeping everybody alive for now. Dodge trying to make their way through a Creche, managing to do so far. Hello Senpai, I believe, is the last guy through. It's always a dicey proposition making that split with a buggy.
The buggy was the last one to come through as well. Circle gonna yo-yo back towards the south now. So lots of these teams that maybe over-rotated gonna have a few problems, but I mean, Dig just going to turn around in the blue. You can see Honey Badger was just headed towards the north road there, and he was just like, well, gonna stay in the blue. Let's wrap back around the east side of Stauber.
Dodge sent 2 underneath versus they left 1 behind, and Young Kings decided that was going to be an easy kill. He gets him with the drop shot. What is it, 2017? Poblex. You're not allowed to get away with that.
That's the Greg shot special right there outside the shack. The best thing was Shrimsy stole it. Shrimsy actually yoinked that one away. Gets the kill credit for it.
Well, you take it where you can get them. Dodge keep 3 up. They're going to be right underneath the awning of Versus.
Good Dig, man.
I
want to know Dig's distance traveled. I really did that. And it for purely
comedic purposes.
Yes.
I mean, I was
trying to find the right word for that, but yes, it's for comedic.
Well, gas cans. Oh no, they see a man holding a grenade as they pull up there, and they immediately the heck on out.
Oh, okay. I thought they were going to drive straight to Young Kings towards Pablex.
Well, for right now, it looks like they're going to put their attention over to a Creche.
What are Creche doing? Like, they need to be gone from the gas station already. I mean, it was a bonus that gas cans were this late, but they have nothing to be holding this out for right now. You see already 2 players split out towards the east, rightfully so, but I guess this is just absolute paranoia of being backfilled, right, up on that roadside, but
just holding on to that high ground as long as they can, right?
Yeah, I guess there's no real pressure from the north, but I mean, you're losing vehicles and stuff for nothing. And you could argue that actually with no pressures to the north and all this space, you'd still want these vehicles to make use of the open terrain.
Absolutely. Well, VHC will get a knock on the Hikerman. See if he's able to flush it out. See LFP looking over in that direction to see if he can do any damage, but Young King's creeping up over the top as well.
I mean, this is the sort of thing, right? It's going to be so difficult to find that flush. Like, what's the value in this? We were starting to have this conversation earlier.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to find this flush. You're not going to push it. You're not going to, okay, talking to pushing. Dig downhill, Sparking will find Balefrost.
They finally finding their way in a circle, and they find a little
First kill.
Free knock off of it as well. Yeah, Bale gonna go down. Badger pushing in with 1 HP to get that flush. And it pays off. Shinboy does go down to Snakers. Snakers has the grenade in hand. Poonage gonna go down. Badger goes down. Sparking now the last one up as Oath holds strong after getting the initial knock. Sparking at the high ground has the smokes laid out. They'll make sure to get that flush, clean that up free and clear. Sparking does have a grenade in hand, but the blue still on him.
That's good. That
there
nade's
it
good.
is. Oh my goodness. The uphill nade, always a thing of beauty.
I feel terrible for Dignity. They basically just drove around for 16 minutes.
They really did. Well, now look at no chance.
There's no way they push this, right? No,
Oh
okay, yeah. Kickstarter gonna find some good damage. Force him off that angle. They still, I guess, didn't have numbers there on Dig because No Chance still expecting somebody to come downhill here.
Yeah.
Balkan's actually got ahead of Oath here. You can see he's in a position to potentially harass, but look at that from distance.
The problem. Oh, Fiumba. Fiumba just downhill. And they got eyes on that real quick as he is taking care of Akreche. Well, Gas Cans decided they didn't like that Akreche was trying to do a little casual gatekeeping there, and they're going to take out LFP quickly and easily. And now Dodge also gets crashed.
What?
Artray with the drive-by nade through the window.
You are joking.
Just
No
like
way.
that. And Hallow Senpai all by himself. Akreche now taking it back to Gas Cans as Greg Shot tries to do the same seat swapping action. Does not pay off for him as well as it did for his teammate VHZ. Pull back in for the time being to get a little bit of a heal on. Oath has left the high ground, managed to avoid the eyes of Fiumba, as now no chances outside of circle. Shooting down for some reason.
How has this happened where like Oath have actually wrapped in front of No Chance? Yes, Balkan falls, but if you're going to try and set up for a hold like that, Oath to come through, have they taken they have lost one actually again. Sorry. Get ahead of myself there.
Seeing the kill feed that Akreche has managed to dispatch of most of Gas Cans here. Veritas, meanwhile, in a fight with Troglodytes on the north side. 303 also on foot, pushing into TSM, or what remains of TSM. Kill demo. Finds a JR. Lobes will do... Actually, Danny going to be the one that gets the knock. Kill demo pushing up onto the rock. Finds Danny with Molly in hand. I believe Danny is the last one up here for Veritas. And there you go. Akreche is eliminated as well. As actually, no, they did get Danny. He pulled away from it like he got the knock, and I see the kill feed light up. This is very confusing. I'm sorry.
Okay, Danny G falls to the blue there, but Gascan's actually turned things around on Akreche. Okay, another drive-by nade there. That looks good, actually. Yeah, it will. Pent up, swiftly dealt with. Stone Storm and 303 will find a little bit of breathing space over on the north side. Only really with Troglodytes to deal with, and they're still recovering from that previous engagement. If 303 can spring into action, at least find an opening angle onto this to punish.
It will be, yes. There you go. Trisk gonna find the angle and actually gets him through the smoke. The Troglodytes day is done. We're down to 32 alive. 11 teams up, though. And you can see by the green hash marks on your left-hand side of your screen there, a lot of teams beaten, battered, busted. But Sonics, Fiumba, Young Kings, 22 all have 4 up still.
Here is... Okay, this is bold. I like this. Oath already finding enough space to prevent this push coming at least for free, but Kickstart takes a lot of damage, and look at that. Actually, there's no chance. They're going to be the ones to find the most of the damage here onto Oath.
Sonics had to make a move as well. They pushed in underneath Fiumba, and Fiumba actually going to do big damage. Biznaga down 1 Araji Wow for the time being, but they still have 3 up. Oath down to just 1. Snaker's going to try to hold things out here. There's no chance. Down to 1 as well. RDS 149, the only player left, and Fiumba still creeping over in this area. Songjing looking down to see if he can find an angle here. 22 does get the res on the Raji Wow. Snakers in the sniper tower, see if he can do any more damage, but he is basically as good as dead at this point, you have to imagine.
Yeah, I tend to feel that way as well, as whether or not they're going to, I guess, force the issue here. who've at least bought themselves enough time and space to deal with gas cans are actually wrapping around to the south here. It looks like Vinny at least is gonna catch wind of this. Snake is still trying to fight uphill. He's find a consolation here, but takes lots of damage from fire. It's actually Hayes10 that will find it. Jump back on board with Sonics.
Sonics down 1 Tickleton, but they still got 2 up, and Sharp Shot slowly healing up in the corner. I believe the last player up for SSG. Oh no! Each one gets spotted out by Trisk, and now Sonic's down to just 1 again. Gas Cans does get eliminated on that wrap by 22, so 22 keeping all 4 up, and they still have control over the southeast side. Young Kings, meanwhile, operating from the southwest. Fiumba has control over pretty much from the center all the way towards the east, as 303 is still alive. So it's a very LATAM heavy final game here, or first game on Erangel.
It is indeed. As Fiumba actually now spreading further and further afield from their initial position. Actually, you have to wait and see what this next circle does, because I think actually in most scenarios they're still going to be pretty comfortable, even if there's centers, and actually that's even better than a central pop.
That's beautiful for them.
Yeah, the west side of their split actually going to be able to hold down a lot of these teams looking to advance. At least Sharpshot, obviously the remnants of SSG and Sonics to move from the trenches, but also Young Kings down to the southwest. Don't forget about them. They've still got numbers.
Absolutely, and Draft King will spot out those Young Kings, take a few shots down in that direction. The one concern that I have for Fiumba with this wide spread is if somebody over peaks or finds themselves in a bad position, that could be a knock and instant flush. You can see Raji has that all in hand. 22 is looking for where they want to play next. 303 also very wide split, creeping on the north side, looking for angles. Young Kings pretty much, oh, there it is. Raji making that all do work. He's going to find the opening knock onto Wycuz. Young Kings seems extremely pinned down here. Z-Flux also already pretty low as 22 starts to make their way into the circle.
Finds another one as well. Look at that.
Oh,
Kill feed. Flux will fall. Actually weakens Young Kings, and with the circle already starting to close in, I'm not sure about the timing on these reses. Looks like on the map they're going to try and get everybody back on their feet. At least everybody they can.
They've got 2 there, and they get them both.
Okay.
So a little bit of luck going in Young Kings' direction here. They need all of it they can get, because they've still got to make their way in.
I was going to say, that's at the cost of some tires there. You heard them popping in the background, and potentially that weakens their rotation possibilities. Shrimsy going to send out a pre-nade here and find a little bit of damage. Will chip away, but nothing to write home about now.
Yeah. And Naga.
That was the Orm and mini follow-up, I'm pretty sure. Shrimsy just like insta died off that damage.
It was not very long for this world. Well, Raji has been making that do work for him. 5 shots left in the clip, or the magazine, I guess, if you want to be a jerk about it. Draft King, though, going to take the shots over there, force 22 back behind cover. Hayes 10 starting to creep a little bit more to the west as Young Kings, for as bad as the spot as they were in, they still have 4 up, and they're going to be creeping over into Sharp Shot territory.
I think for the time being, Sharp Shot has gone unnoticed.
Absolutely. No shot that they have any idea. How?
Oh, it was 303. 303 somehow found a headshot angle onto Sharp Shot.
Wow. Okay. It's a hell of an angle. Trisk just keeps sending them, or I guess it was Feischke, yeah.
So the thing is here, if Young Kings move close enough, or at least 303 now blowing up this vehicle is gonna, I think it's gonna alert Young Kings to the possibility that somebody's down here.
I mean, they've got to know. Yeah. You've got to read the situation, figure out what's going on. You see a couple of them looking over in this direction. I think it's And1 and Poblex.
Good Fiumba's position.
I mean, they have everything they want, man.
Everything. And no, 303 aren't even advancing towards this.
No,
see, now actually Trisk considering it, but
I mean, it looks like they're just trying to really content with holding this high ground for as long as they can on the part of 303. They're just going to send shots down at Young Kings, which is, I mean, you can't really blame them. It's free shots and from a safe position, and they know Fiumba's over in that compound. 22, meanwhile, still 4 up, still creeping on that south side, all looking south as well, and they are just hugging the edge right now.
See, the only real, I was gonna say the only real threat right now is if Fiumba get a little overzealous on clearing the south, because the south should almost deal with itself.
Mm-hmm.
No way, sharp shot. No way, sharp shot.
Oh my god.
My god. Just like that.
Sharp shot. We've seen him do it before. We've seen him 1v4 Sonics for a win. Why not just come and shoot all of Young Kings before getting summarily dispatched by a well-placed mini shot? So now we have gotten to our top 3. 22 down 1 player right now off of a knock. Fiumba looking like they're creeping off in that direction, and it looks like Fiumba does. They're pulled 2 different ways. They don't want to commit too hard in either direction, but you got to feel like they've got to pick something here.
Yeah, they have to. The worst thing they can do here is split their focus. Allow somebody to at least capitalize on them engaging one way or the other. Obviously, one member of 22 Esports downed right now, but it's difficult for Fiumba to really, I guess, fill that gap, close the distance onto them. So looking like they want to slow play this through. 303 still not making moves though. Like I feel like eventually, if this centers, which it pretty much does, yeah, then have 303 left this a little late? I mean, because 22 die here, surely. They either wrap the ridge or they die pushing Fiumba.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if I'm 303, I'm down. I've only got 3 guys up. You know, they know that there's a fight going on this south side, and maybe they're just trying to bide their time and wait to see if they can come over and clean it up. They just don't want to be the first initiator here. They want to be the one that's doing the third partying. They got to be careful though, because as you said, that low wrap from 22 is definitely a possibility, and it could end up being a 303-22 fight where Fiumba just sits down and waits. So it's really all dependent on 22 here, where they decide to go. If 303 can get this knock on a Haze 10 right off the bat, that could force 22 into pushing into Fiumba.
See, now's the time. This is the point of the game where we start asking questions about utility. It looks like 2 members, actually, Vinny and Biznaga, looking like they want to regress onto the compound. And Fiumba have actually given up this ridge. You can see them.
Gosh. They're turtling.
Yeah, they were kind of postured up along this ridge, and it's left an opportunity here, potentially, for 22 to get up close and personal.
This really feels like Fiumba opening the door for both of these squads, really, to just come.
Are they baiting them? Is this a bait?
Maybe. Maybe they're trying to see if they can just turtle down in the compound and get 303 and 22 to fight. I'm not sure, but for whatever it's worth, Fiumba just staying inside. Maybe it's a lack of utility. They just feel a lot safer playing from inside these compounds. But either way, Fiumba just gonna wait, bide their time, see what 22 and 303 decide to do.
Yeah, this is awkward, because now Fiumba's
to say the least.
Fiumba's kind of emphasis has got to be towards the south side of this compound, right? So this fight has to happen, and 303 potentially going to be the benefactors of that. If they don't overpeak, I can see Feiska taking a little bit of damage there.
I think he's been spotted out. He was.
I think Fiumba are just trying to play this edge shack here, Par. They're literally trying to hold on to where Emmy is.
Well, 22 is going to do a little bit of regrouping on the cliffside here. Feiska will take some, do some damage, but takes more in return. As 22, they don't want to deal with Fiumba. They don't want to push into this compound. They want to force Fiumba to come out. But I don't know what their option is.
Fiumba are making a play to hold on to the northwestern point of there. You can see now.
Okay, yeah, now.
DraftKings coming out. Silzen going to find Hayes 10. That might be the green light. Look at that angle opened up by Silzen.
Rooftop plays for Silzen, and it plays out perfectly as 22 pulls back onto the rocks, goes down one by one. Trisk now knocked as Faishka and Stone Storm, the last two up. Songjing will take shots through the smoke. They've got the blue pressing on their backs here. Faishka still has the rocks to work with, though. He's got that AUG in hand, which is such a dangerous weapon. Stone Storm gets knocked down to about half HP. He's going to play through the smoke, but you can see the smokes are going away. He's got to push up to the tree. Songjing spots him. Silzen spots him better. We'll get the knock. Faishka, the head creeps over the top of the ridge line just long enough. A few shots come through. Nothing just yet. Faishka lays down smoke wall, and now Fiumba are just swarming. They know it's one guy remaining. He's going to try to push up with that AUG in hand, see if he can do some damage. One peeks the side, gets the knock. DraftKings doesn't want to take it as well. Faishka will flush out that kill. And the rest of Fiumba pulling back. Silzen playing the inside of the smoke. DraftKings holding down the edge. Emmy takes a little bit of blue damage, spots him out. No, the AUG wins. The smokes are dying in the middle here, though. Silzen and DraftKings looking through the middle. They'll spot him. Takes him out, and Fiumba gets a very unorthodox win in game number 3.
I mean, things nearly fell apart for them, right? It's only really the fact that there was no meds available at the end. The AUG just ripping through Fiumba. When it came down to the firefight itself, I mean, excellent play around the smokes there. It was... I'd really love to know the decision making throughout that entire process there as to why they allowed that to go so long. Obviously, Silzen finding a fantastic angle eventually there to open things up, but I can't help but feel like you can't play that passively when you have that much control and it's left seemingly for free up until that point for, well, you could argue the 6 or 7 minutes up until that point. Yeah. Things got really, really tense.
I mean, hey, it did end up working out in the end. So, but you can't look at all your victories and say, "Oh, we did everything perfectly." That victory, that one very easily could have slipped through the fingers there for Fiumba. And you got to look at 22 as well. I mean, they started pushing. It was just like they didn't want to commit to pushing into that compound unless they could get a knock first or something, or gain some kind of information for their part. Fiumba, they're turtling. Ended up being threatening enough to where 22 didn't want to have any part of it, and they just end up going back to the cliffside.
Yeah, it was, and again, you can make the same argument for 303. Yes, they were weakened, but if you make it to the top 3 in that scenario, you've still got bodies up, right? You're not a solo, you're not a duo. The argument could be made to make a play one circle earlier, because it comes down to the shrink there to the star, and we know obviously that then things just become more and more difficult.
That was definitely a game of chess there at the end, which I'm sure Cameron will love to talk about. But before we let you go, we got to let you know about Alienware. Now, you all saw the Alienware that we gave out to the players at PCS4 as laptops were the theme of the day. Especially on the Shrimsy stream. Now we are giving away some of that same gear to you guys. So go check out ESL PUBG Masters Alienware giveaway details, including all of the terms and conditions, over on PUBG Esports Twitter account. So make sure you go and do that while we take this short break. When we come back, the analyst desk will break down that last game and get us ready for the last one.
Welcome back to the ESL PUBG Masters Americas. 3 games in the book, 1 more to go. My name's Toffees. I'm joined by the Cammy D and Clover, and I think we can all agree it was a sizzling ending as Fiumba takes the win. Clover, that was a Latin American finale.
You know, I was a little bit worried coming out of Miramar because we didn't see a late game showing for Latin America, either of those teams. But obviously, I think we saw a little bit of return to grace with Fiumba making an explosive kind of intro there into the 3rd game.
Highlights!
Yeah, going into the highlights here, there was talk about explosive. This was TSM fighting from the very beginning. A lot of teams rotating around this Northern Bridge, but sharp shot. Keep an eye on this kid. He's always been a talented player, but he has quite a few highlight moments from this particular game. But ultimately, this part of Erangel, the part between the mountain and Severny, it's always been one of the worst areas to play around. The update from years ago did give some more playable positions here, but it doesn't surprise me that it was Fiumba with an early grab of a compound that honestly didn't have to do much, was able to survive with I guess, yeah, the most survivability in this round, because so many other people, we saw a lot of driving around, a lot of potential drive-bys, a lot of just spreading out, trying to find some angle because of how open this area can be.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of heard the casters talk about it at the end of the game, that there was a lot of opportunities for multiple teams to kind of take that push onto Fiumba's compound, but some hesitation really cost them at the end. But you want to talk about not hesitating? Sharp shot right here. This full wipe onto Young Kings. Eliminating Sharp shot, obviously immediately dying there to Faiska, but it's not the first time that we've seen him pull this off today. In fact, I think Sharp shot right now is the first player to break not only double-digit kills, but he's also has more kills than 9 other teams right now. So I want to see that trend continuing.
Faiska put up a really solid 1vx play here at the end, but again, it really just comes down to Fiumba. Not only were they able to, because of their position, keep all 4 members alive towards the late game, we saw just a few moments ago the angle that I forget which member it was had on 22 who were hidden behind that rock. They didn't give 22 Esports or 303 any opportunity to try and crest over that ridge line. And it's not a moat in the sense of it being water, but there was a big flat area between that ridge and like the next cover, most of the compounds that Fiumba had in their control. So really once it came down to those final 3, it was up to 303 and 22 to make an amazing play, and Fiumba didn't let that happen.
Take a look at the kill leaders and damage leaders real quick, Clover, as we go through here. I want to point out, we saw a Sharp shot on there, the Kingslayer, but all off the back of really just one big play.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, hey, those kills matter. And Faiska, though we didn't see him on the top 5, he was just barely out of there with 3 kills. We do see him in terms of damage, and that's just how much work that he was really putting on for his team. And we did take out Sharp shot, and we saw that play at the very end. It's exciting. It's exciting to kind of see these players wake up. In fact, Godspeed and I were really talking about it Sunday last week, that we really wanted to see more out of some teams like 303, for example. I definitely think that it's kind of their comfort level back into this. So if you take a kind of look between Fiumba and 303, I do want to point out, I mean, this damage is really close between the 2 of them, and that's huge growth for 303 in terms of their play last week.
I mean, Cameron, we heard them a little bit at the start of the show. We talked about the sort of turning it around for 303. At the end of last week, they got those final 2 games where they put up some big numbers. And then they come here, I mean, 3rd game, that's a pretty good showing.
It is. Unfortunately, they only still have, 11 kills after 3 games, which we've seen, you know, better teams have similar numbers from time to time. It's the fact that they came off a week that wasn't super great last week. I don't know, 303, what I'm trying to say is they're not high on my list from Latin America or just this event overall of the team that I'm really going to have my eye out to try and take over.
So you see the bottom of the screen, 1 more game left to play. TSM takes the first one, Gas Cans the second, Fiumba the third. A team that is not up there right now, Clover, that honestly, with their kill counts and their placement and their finishes, I expected at this point is Oath.
Well, I mean, this is Erangel. We know how they like to finish on Erangel for these maps. Traditionally, we've said this a lot, we don't see Oath have a strong performance on the first day. I don't usually look at that team and go, they're going to come out strong on day 1. But day 2 and 3, we could see quite a lot of wins from them. That said, looking back at last week, you never know.
You never know. And that's the thing about Oath is like you just sit on the edge of your seat until they get their win. But they always seem to get one. A team that always seems to get 1, 2, 3, maybe 5, who knows, is the Sonics, Cameron. And yet again, this week, 3 games in, let's look, we saw 6 in the last game, 5th in the game previous, and 4th in the first game. So they're actually, 4 through 6 is still pretty darn good, but they're technically getting worse every game. It's a little scary.
Yeah, technically. I think obviously the first game was the best one for them. And if you look at all 3 of these games, if you just took them out of a random assortment of Sonic's games, there's a reasonable explanation for what happened to them. It really just comes down to the pattern that we're seeing. If this was the start of an event, I wouldn't be as worried. They had a very disappointing week number 1. And again, I'm worried that they're still in that rut of being unable to survive throughout the mid game. Like, again, that send from the second Miramar game on towards the bridge, perfectly reasonable plan B. Any other team in a similar situation, that's all that they would have been able to do as well. It's just, when are we going to get the games that they are able to make those hero plays that Sonics are so known for?
Let me ask you, that was the first Erangel game, Clover, but it was a unique Erangel game. When we go to Stalber, it's very different than the rest of the map, right? It in some ways, it almost feels like a extending of Miramar, right? When you get to that end game and the way that you're playing at an elevation. Do you think that affected some of our teams, like, say, Sonics, who drop middle and kind of assume that there will be circles that go towards middle at some point in 3 games?
I think in the past that could be the case, but we see these Stalber circles so frequently, and I think teams have a very good idea of how to fight and play around a lot of this terrain. We do have, especially with that Erangel update that came out 2 years ago, so much more compounds and playable areas, and teams kind of taking those northern rotations. But as you heard Poro and Hypoc talk about it during the cast, teams like TSM want to take that north wrap, and I think other teams have kind of started to learn from the way that those teams were playing these areas last year. And so there's not really any secret sauce to being able to win a Stalber anymore. And that's kind of, I think, been maybe the detriment to some of these teams.
Talk to me about let's talk about Gas Cans for a second, Cameron. This is a team that won a game here today, and then they came to this one. They got 7th and 4 kills. They had a long way to travel. It seems like Gas Cans has been handling sort of this early game transitions very well.
Yeah, generally, and that's because they really like to play low to the floor, low to the ground, like they're a snake just slithering around. And I know that that's sort of a trope in PUBG as being a snake, but they're doing it in a strategic way, shall we say, right? They are not going loud. They're not calling to attention themselves. They're basically the opposite of Creche in that way, right? Now, the downside is that it makes it a little less likely, or maybe not as often, that they find themselves sort of stealing a position away from someone or really trying to find control or anything like that. It is a very reliable way to get into the late game. It's just all about needing to find those opportunities and having a hair trigger on this is our moment to try and take over and try and win the game.
You got to capitalize, right? That's the rat life to a certain extent, Clover. A lot of people say negatives about rats, but the reality is the rat at some point has to strike, and they've got to be very clean when they do it.
Yeah, and I mean, again, Oath by a lot. This is the team that has traveled the most. By vehicle. They're the team that we kind of see hang back. Sometimes when you look at the map in phase 1, you'll see them even in the blue. They will wait and play that edge until mid-game. They try to set themselves centered and then don't have to move until, as you say, wait for the right moment to strike.
Well, it's time for us to move to the final match of the day. It's time to get down with our casters. It's the boys with the boogie, Hypoc and Porosaurus.
Slithering like snakes into this final game, Hypoc. That's how we're living. That's how we're feeling. As we've gotten.
I was gonna say so. Can we just take a moment to appreciate one of the weirdest Steve throws we've ever had?
That's saying a lot, my dude.
That is. It's a bold statement, and I stand by it.
Okay, well, we'll take it. Well, it's a very, very, very weird one.
Very conscious now.
Look, sometimes you get a little boogie fall down in your beard, and it's things. These things happen. But that's why you have beards, right? You got to catch that. But 3 games down and 3 wild finishes. Pretty much, this has been some of the most exciting end games I feel like we've seen in quite some time.
I'm actually with you on that one. Yeah, it's in terms of Circle 1 pops, which, I mean, looking at this plane, I'm calling it now, it's a milli circle. We do one, obviously, with the way the circles have gone, and this plane path, it's screaming military circle, but we'll park that for a second, at least for 30 seconds.
We'll see what happens here. I'm kind of taking a look. Akreshe and Fiumba have joined gas scans down on Military Island. Unfortunately for Adam, looks like Akreshe is going to take his spot, his normal southern looting spot away, but he's got his eyes on and he's going to notice and he's going to get the hell on out of there. Fiumba, meanwhile, will take over in Novo. Dodge does have a little bit of close company on the west side with Versus, but it looks like they're just dropping for vehicles and we're fine. And no milli circle. Instead, we get Pachinki right dead center.
That's lots of space over to the west. Obviously, with where that plane path did lie, a few less teams populating the west side of the main island. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, gas cans, you got to say they're going to sit pretty late on this one, and Akreshe potentially have issues here. If they do decide to just come through, because there's a secondary layer to it, right? And it's these guys on the screen right now, Young Kings. Oh
boy.
Well, they got their own problems.
Yeah. I guess one of those problems is Grappo and his infamous VSS. Boy, that was swag, right? They just walk up with one pop, you know?
That was the most blasé flash I think we'll see all weekend.
It's just like, I guess
whatever.
you're worth the bullet. Sure.
Whatever. I'm not even going to waste the VSS bullets on you.
Oh, boy. Well, that's Young Kings down to 3, and Young Kings actually the ones kind of looking at to be in position to maybe be a problem for some of these teams rotating across from that military island. We're going to just keep an eye on Akreshe because I'm interested to see if they decide to go east or west on this one. Just because, I mean, obviously they've got to know gas cans where they are. I assume probably saw Fiumba dropping over towards Novo. It feels just like it's going to be a really late rotation for Akreshe, maybe coming over on the eastern bridge, but just with the way the plane was, it seems like that might be even busier.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem here. So even for some of the teams that are already in this circle with this much space over to the west, teams have kind of got to have their head on a swivel. I don't think really there's been too many issues in terms of audible drops here. I mean, TSM, the one that sticks out the most, being up towards Stauber. But especially on these is, and again, it depends on that circle 2 shift, right? That's the one where we've seen these hard shifts all day long. So that could add another variable, another obstacle further down the line. And really, the big concerns become it's Dignitas, it's Oath, it's obviously Fiumba way over on the very edge of Sosnovka, outside of obviously TSM. I expect TSM to basically, I guess, do the opposite of what they did in the previous, which would be to wrap towards George anyway, maybe come down the Cube Bridge, and if they can actually, I guess, traverse into some of that open space early enough, it could pay dividends for them. Yeah,
I was actually about to agree with you there. TSM, although looting up in Stalber and Kameshki, I 100% expect the wrap coming towards the western side, maybe stopping off a little bit on the top of Everest to scout out what they can see. We'll see if 303 or Troglodytes become a problem for that. Meanwhile, Roth, SSG has had a very hard time keeping 4 up to late game today. It's been a struggle.
Keeping 4 up, full stop, to be honest.
Well, fair enough. It looks like they maybe sticking a little bit closer together here, although they are extending over into Dodge territory. They were scouting. I don't think they spotted anything, and there's nothing really to give them an indication that Finna is in here. But Finna, for his part, not really willing to stick it out any longer than this. He's just going to come back over, and yep, there you go. A few shots in the back, and now SSG knows that they have the 2-2 split that they want.
So it's set up. And this is very early to be here. Gascan's already making the cross, so not going to sit too late as I was expecting. And with a weakened Young Kings to the north, you got to say they should have free passage.
Yeah,
Now,
I do agree with you though on that gas can spot. I think maybe the fact that the other two teams dropped down there with them maybe forced their hand a little bit into playing across the bridge a little bit earlier.
I mean, if you see one team drop with you, then you're like, okay, yeah, maybe you have a comfortable opportunity to do it. But if there's two, you just, I mean, you are kind of tempting fate in terms of, you know, potentially there's another team wrapping or shadowing that second team in rotation, and then it becomes a three team fight over the bridge, and nobody wins. Nobody wins in that scenario.
No, not at all. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to deal with that. So Gas Can's just going to go ahead and for their part not have anything to do with it. Okay, so you see Young Kings were taking shots over at Versus pretty well bunkered down for their part. Veritas just hanging out in Mini Poach, just north of where Sonics have pretty much just stayed after looting up Pachinki. They did send one out into the Pachinki Barns off to the east, and one Tiggleton off to the west, just to keep track of everything that's heading this way and where everything is going, just to give them the information that they need should this next circle decide to do something wonky, like, I don't know, hard shift to the south.
I mean, you called it, right?
Can you imagine, though?
Yeah. Can you?
Oh, I can. We've seen it happen. Oh.
It's either going south or west, man. Like those, there's no other possibility.
Yeah.
With what we've seen today with Circle 2s, it's like we're looking at a ferry pier ending or like chopsticks ending.
True. It does.
I'm down for a chopsticks ending, actually.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
It's been a hot minute,
actually. A hot minute since we've seen a chopsticks ending. 303. Looks like they are going to be scouting out on top of Everest. Sonics, meanwhile, Tiggleton will see Troglodytas roll by, and that'll be close enough for him to say, yep, there's a team there. I'm going to go ahead and dip on out. That's probably the correct play. We'll go keep an eye on them from, well, I guess we'll say the church. Although it looks like he's going to creep in. Yeah, just keep those tires safe for now, just in case something happens.
I'm a little intrigued. I mean, H-Win's way out on an island here, holding down double barns. Now,
yeah.
Again, it's Sonics, it's Pachinki. Lots of teams in this lobby are going to be thinking, guys, don't go near anything in terms of Pachinki, right? Because it's Sonic's territory, right? But still, this...
Well, this is new.
It's a little greedy.
It's a little greedy for them. Usually when we see a circle like this where Pachinki gets favored, you'll see Sonic send two out towards the Pachinki Barns, and then they'll have two on church.
Well, and this is the problem I have with it. Like, if H-Win, even if he's got a bike, right? Somebody pulls up on the outside of this compound. Look at what he has to cover. Yes, he's got a vehicle to get away, but it's open terrain to the west, right? Potentially, he can come to the south on those trenches, but that's a lot of ground to cover. If you know some teams feeling real fruity, they pull up as four. They can get a lot of damage. He's got to cross in open terrain. Now that's my biggest concern with it, and you can already see actually members of 22. I don't want to say sending out feelers, but at least looking that way. They're assessing the situation.
They're definitely doing.
Is it worth the hold? That's the thing.
Well, and that's the thing. I think you look at where H1 is, but then you look at Mime's position and Tiggleton's. They could probably give him a little bit of support, but even still, that's a really high risk, low reward kind of thing you got going on there. So, but for now, I mean, they're pretty much okay.
Hey, don't prove me wrong. I'm building this. I'm building the narrative, man. I'm planting the seed.
I believe it.
Now H-Win's going to 1v4 whoever pulls up, because he's just that kind of guy.
It's true, and he'll do it with class and style. And TSM, I guess, saw Dignitas making their way up Everest and are just going to go ahead and skirt around it, but they are still making that far western entrance. And, well, okay, that's not as bad as it could have been. That's probably the safest as it could have been.
Well, do you know what? One thing, actually, fantastic setup from Sonics here, because they've actually got control of the double barns here, Poro. They're going to be able to consolidate their split over into a real strong position inside this next circle. You really love to see that.
You really do. It's almost like It's almost like they drop a ticket and they know what they're doing. But they're going to go ahead and consolidate. Meanwhile, 22 going to try to consolidate right on top of Sharp Shot and the rest of SSG. He'll take a few shots, but won't get the knock. And the M249 drive by. Sharp Shot gets knocked down to 7 HP, but they can't get the flush or the knock. And no, he tries to get in the... Oh, no.
No way.
His Naga. Is Sharp Shot going to try to hold this out with 7 HP? The rest of SSG are coming to provide support. Keenan makes it up, but he's flashed in 22. Vinny will find the drive-by onto him. Hayes 10 is now the last one up. Or as Rajiwao goes down, Sharp Shot somehow is killing everybody.
It's only Hayes 10 left, and he's split. SSG going to be able to stay as 4 and potentially find this 4th kill. I mean, Hayes 10 going to drive away, but at this point...
Oh, and now look at
value?
Young Kings. Young Kings are now crashing on it. And they're crashing on it 4 deep in the vehicle, 3 deep in the vehicle. They've got one down, Keenan's down, Roth's down, Uncivil and Sharp Shot are just left wondering what the hell they did to deserve this. Sharp Shot will get knocked a little bit low by Uncivil's grenade. He has to push in with 25 HP, shoots him in the back, gets one, gets none, as now it's down to Uncivil holding down the high ground. He's gonna come down, get the flush on Sharp Shot's knock. We'll try to hold back onto the staircase. Flux not gonna let him lay the smoke down and hold it. Uncivil pre-firing a little bit here, maybe trying to do the okey doke. Jump out the window, come in through the garage. A lot of vehicles hanging out right there. Gonna be a big explosion. And one and Z Flux for their part, pulling back down and putting a pause on things. But SSG, you never think you're gonna have to hold that compound against 2 4-man crashes.
I don't know what I just watched. I really don't. Uncivil.
Circle 2 of all things.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking like Circle 2 of Game 6 in scrims.
Well, LATAM knows what they want and they will take it if they think they can get it. Utility coming in from Young Kings. Gonna do a little bit of damage. It's not gonna find the knock. Civ just gonna hide out in the smoke right now. Listen for those footsteps. Reposition. Onto the flat top. Sees nobody on the hill. Knows that he's relatively safe here right now. I feel like he wants to go for that window, man. That stair window is so dirty.
Young Kings actually down to 2. I thought they'd managed to get the 3rd back up, but I think with that initial damage by Uncivil and then that nade down the stairs probably prevented that from happening. Here we go. That's a freebie. That's a freebie. Oh, that's a freebie. Flux will fall. He dropped it. Wait, he dropped a nade. Careful.
Did he drop
a nade or what? I thought he did.
Oh my god. Oh my god, Civ.
What happened? Was it a flash or a nade? I saw something get dropped there.
It must have been a flash. It must have been a flash. No nade went off. And Uncivil holds.
Do you remember? No, a crash air coming. No way, a crash air. Yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god.
And Civil's just sitting here like, please, God, why?
Make it stop. Make it stop, please. End my suffering.
He didn't even have a chance to loot.
There's literally enough loot here to play
Fiumba?
like tomorrow. Yes.
You've got to be kidding me.
Another.
Again. We go again.
They stopped.
Oh my goodness. Why did they stop? Just do it. You're gonna play the ridge line here, I guess. I mean, you can get shot at from Death Road. I guess they didn't want to crash. They want to just push through. Creche already in position, pretty decent position to kind of hold off on this, as second guessing themselves a little bit here. Because why the hell would you crash on this in Circle 2? It's only like 4 other teams have done it.
I'm actually really disappointed. Fiumba didn't commit to that. I want to know what they saw. They were just like, nah, guys, nah, let's not do it. Let's not do it.
T-Plants managing to narrowly escape the clutches of TSM as they move in on the south side here. Remember, they did that long wrap around from Stallber and Kameshki looting. They've managed to sneak their way into a compound on the very south.
Oh my god, I've only just realized now. Dignitas are coming in on this side of the circle.
Oh dear.
I have to keep an eye on that as 303 and Versus getting into it elsewhere. It's down actually on the southwest side. Versus set up in the dip up on the hill, but
I think T-Plants might have been doing a little scout work for Versus there, and they just had no clue that 303 was hanging out. So they end up paying the price as Versus now down to 3, still hanging out on top of C9 Hill, Fiumba. Just chilling, I guess. Crochet just gonna let him do it. As Dignitas, you can see, as Bug mentioned, starting to creep in from that side. Got minis out. You got to imagine they're doing a little bit of scouting here.
Yeah. Well, one can hope.
At this point, who knows?
Gonna say, I mean, Potato's still up for grabs as well. Like there is so much space up on the top of the hillside. As I'm now seeing a Crochet open things up onto Fiumba. 3 knocks in quick succession. Maybe that crash looking all the more fruitful, really, with how easily a Crochet are able to punish this position now.
Jeez, that was efficient. DraftKings still up though, so Fiumba not completely out of the game just yet, although Dignitas starting to take some shots over here.
As good as.
Yeah, well, yeah. And they also got you got a solo in Hazelton that's just off in the distance. Gas Cans trying to make their way through. Get a few shots sent their direction from 303, and H11 Jr. going to take a little bit of damage from hopping off the bike, but he does spot out Adam with the Yum. Not going to be enough damage. Greg Shot will try to force H11 Jr. back down. Does so, but Gas Cans taken care of quickly. Hikerman going to go for the res down on Nikos. Should get it back up, but they're going to be down to 2, and they've got the blue right on their backs, and 303 staring right down on them.
The force them. TSM is sending it towards the compound power. Oh my god. Oh my god. No. Okay, Luke deals with DraftKings. What? I need to get a heat map. I need a heat map for after this game of just player death locations, because I feel like within a 250 meter like square. That must be. We're at 12 already now, surely.
Oh, Nikos does manage to get the heal off in time. Hikerman, no such luck. He just shoots his mini to the sky. I gotta wonder if Luke even saw DraftKings. If he just pulled in and just ran him over and he's like, oh, I got a kill. Nice.
Oh, well. I mean, to be honest, when you see the car fort lined along the edge of this ridge, I'm definitely sending my vehicle on the inner side of that every
100%.
single time. Every single time.
100%. Well.
Oh no, Hastings in. Wait, Hastings in the wizard?
Oh, he is. Oh, Badger didn't go to the top, and Hastings just sitting there.
Dignitas gonna have another blooper. Please, please tell me Hastings doesn't like absolutely ruin Dignitas's game.
Well, for his part, he's just chilling. He's not even peeking. He's not doing anything. He's just waiting for somebody to open that door.
He's waiting to rat somebody is exactly what he's trying to do.
Oh boy.
What was it Steve so eloquently said earlier? A rat has to strike eventually.
It is true. It is true. JR got a little bit of flashbang in his ears as Veritas going to push on to No Chance on the northern side of the circle. No knocks come through just yet. It's mostly just trading utility at this point. It's Danny G, JR, the last 2 up for Veritas. They got to go somewhere, I guess. Ruining No Chance's day is as good a place as any to go.
Seeing here, I mean, take a look at the bigger picture. The teams that have actually managed to garner some space. Oath now getting up to Potato. I'm probably thinking, wait, there's nobody up here.
Yeah, they're shocked.
303 actually finding, I guess initially, the damage onto Dodge, and it will force them back towards the compound. Now, Versus set up towards the north of it were the ones that, I guess, benefit the most in the previous circle, but now with these teams advancing towards them, Trogloditas Well, up way outside the circle on the north side here, but Danny G laying down a lot of damage, but no knock just yet. So
Danny's
many
all by
tags.
himself. He spot out Kill Demo as well. Kill Demo's gonna have to be the one that. No,
Oh my God.
Vulcan.
Look at the map.
Vulcan. JR
Oath
in
are
the
coming.
circle. The circle's calm down to the south. Oath is coming up over this as well. Potato.
Oh my God.
They've left down. They've heard the shots. They see the kill feed. There goes Veritas. They get cleaned up. 303 gonna shoot at Dignitas as they make their way through. And Dignitas, it's not gonna be Hazetan, but it's gonna be 303 that cleans them up. H11 Jr. still down. Trisk, Stone Storm trying to hold off the push from Dodge as everybody chose the exact moment the circle popped to get involved in fights.
I don't know what's going on. Every team just seems to be completely unaware of another team could be in this game. And they're just sending it towards each other. 303 now getting battered down on the south side. Dodge literally a stone's throw away from this. Still on the outside of that lodge compound. Is only really Finna advancing versus now try and convert some of this damage here. Will Finna spot out anybody on the edge of the circle here? He's got a little bit of smoke cover set up for himself. He looks to potentially punish this. Yeah, Lampalot will follow up on it. Some really good damage.
There you go. Okay, Dodge. Finna doesn't get knocked there. Lamp should be resable, and 303 is taken care of. Meanwhile, remember way back when, IPOC, the beginning of this time, the beginning of this game, when we were looking at Sonics and being like, man, that compound, it's a little dicey. H-Wing could get crashed anytime. Nobody ever looked at that compound, and now Sonics has complete run of the west side of the circle.
Yeah, I mean, the Sonics have 3 players outside of the barns, just like peeking the ridge. Literally controls. H-Wing's moved a total of about 17 meters. He's over on the north side of the compound now, just sending shots up towards Troglodytes. He'll find a knock. Necro will fall. That will ease, or at least alleviate some of this pressure on Oath, and there you go. Reload will find the last, and Troglodytes fall.
Clean.
Now to 6 teams, and would you look at that?
Would you look at it?
Who'd have thought?
23 alive at phase 6 pop. Just as
any barn crashes?
God intended.
Anybody fancy a quick wrap?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see what happens. TSM kind of in a rough spot here now. Is Akreche? We know Akreche will stick this out until the bitter end. Like, Akreche will die to blue just to make sure that TSM does not make their way any further.
Yep.
But they fortunately have vehicles, and they fortunately have a nice little smoke wall set up. All of these vehicles very well
crash barns. That's
hooded.
The play right here. The play right here is the crash barns. Penta can't build up enough speed. Just to do this one on foot. There's lots of damage. Ooh.
Well, they got to put the brakes on it.
Oath are going to punish this from uphill.
TSM just in a world of hurt off of that shift now, as Akreche still not sending it towards their vehicles. The blue is about to be literally on top of them, and they have not yet moved away from this compound. They're still taking shots in. Oath creeping up over the top, as you mentioned, but they at least have taken the time to get themselves a spot inside the circle. Okay, Akreche finally gonna bit into those vehicles, start getting on the move here. Sonics, meanwhile, gonna take shots at Dodge as they make their way in the circle. Vegas will get picked out, and Versus actually gonna do a little bit of damage as well. Grappo be one. Oh no, Luke gets taken out by Akreche. Reshots coming through from Penta through the smoke around the tree. Gets the knock.
Good shots from Penta.
Really good shots, but he pays the price. He goes down in the blue. It's down to just Purdy. He'll take a few more shots over to Akreche through the smoke, do the damage.
Got Oath pushing up in this though as well. They're ready to just clean up whatever is left. Kurt now
this is
tanking blue. Reload going to find the killing blow. Akreche already taking damage now. Oath look to seal the deal, at least on this side of the circle. Sonics, I mean, it's a big gap to fill. They are sitting pretty.
This is a wild. I mean, if Oath can clean this up without taking a knock, it's going to be 4v4
Sonics
for the
out.
win.
Sonics
in
are
phase
out.
6. Sonics are out. Yep, they're on the move. Tiggleton and Shrimsy climbing uphill already. VHG and LFP, the last two up for Akreche. They've got the blue right on their backs. Nicely placed Molotov from Relo. Will force VHG on the move. They spot out the head. He'll get it. Nice shooting from Relo. As LFP now getting crashed on. He's got a little bit of smoke left to hide behind. He's repositioned just a little bit. Hopefully, we'll see if the Oath boys spot him out. But now Sonics, Tiggleton has an angle onto him. Relo will get it. Okay, LFP does get the knock on a Balefrost though. The rest of Sonics have not come up here yet though. There's still three. Mime making his way up slowly, so Oath should be able to get this res.
Yeah, they will, but look at Shrimzy's position. He's heading all the way south along this ridge side. He's going to be able to greet Relo and Snakers as they try and get some sort of position inside this next circle. And already Shrimzy going to open things up. Lots of damage going through, but no knock just yet. That's on to Kickstart, though. Seemingly unaware of Snakers and Relo getting this close.
Kickstart, the jump at the end, almost proving to be his undoing. But he stays alive, gets the heal off. As you can see, helmet's in bad shape there for Relo.
Well, yeah, Sonics are sitting pretty, right? They haven't taken any pressure. No utility invested. They're looking real pretty coming into this fight.
It's definitely going to be an uphill battle for Oath to pull this off. 10 kills already, and it's been a hell of a day for Oath. They've managed to find the late game fairly consistently, but have not gotten that win just yet. Sonics, meanwhile, kind of in the same boat. Decent day so far in terms of kills. Haven't got the win. This will be the first win for Sonics of the tournament if they can find it. Oath trying to do a little bit of repositioning on the edge of the circle.
Where's Kickstart off to?
I don't know. I think they've read what Sonics is doing pretty well. They know that they've got to work against that ridge line.
I think Oath just clinging on to the hope that this next circle at least weakens Sonic's position. Snake is actually going to try and pull up this vehicle close enough that it's in utility range. Snake's got to be really careful with no chance of the res if he goes down.
Yeah, big danger for Snake.
Baiting out some util though.
Actually, Woody, good read by Snakers. As you said, that's if that is intentional bait, man, that is really good bait.
I mean, he's playing off the rocks, right? He's anticipating all this utility to come on and potentially find this knock.
100%. All right, circle does pop. It does go south. Snakers and H-Win pretty much holding down the north themselves. Tiggleton, though, going to come and give some support to his IGL. Mime and Shrimzy, meanwhile, trying to see if they can spot down any heads over peaking. Kind of a weird position for both teams. They have to both have these big wide spreads, which adds that element of danger. As you said, if you get knocked, the res most likely not coming through.
But Snaker's position potentially makes it difficult for H-Win to regroup here. You can see a little bit of a gap in between him and Tiggleton. Again,
strong ridgeline though.
Yeah, Sonics is just waiting for Oath to give something away. This circle, yes, it's going to pull Sonic south, but it doesn't really give up any of the control of center, right? Sonic's still, you got to argue, odds on to win this game. Just positionally.
Yeah, and you got to wonder how much utility Oath even has at this point, if they have enough smokes to even make it to that ridge line. Haven't really gotten a chance to see. We know the Sonics is sitting fairly pretty. I mean, you see H-Win no grenades left after using what he had onto the Snaker's Rock. But you can see Tig and H-Win, they're peaking in pairs. So if the knock does come through, the likelihood that they can get a res off is actually a little bit better. Kickstart hopping into the US, trying to see if he can bait a peak. Not going to happen. Sonics staying disciplined.
This is tricky. Mime and Shrimzy just holding hands at this point. It's so difficult. They're literally just playing for the trade. Snakers, though. He's going to try and hug blue here, and H-Win's got to be careful. He is the one that basically ensures this flank from the north can't happen.
I think H-Win pretty much doing the same thing that Snakers did. I mean, they're just responding to each other in kind as the flashbangs come through. Nobody peeking up over the top just yet. The smokes are going to get laid down, and this is what we get. The 27 smoke finish.
27 FPS finish.
Yeah, indeed. As there it is. That is the top of that ridge line. The south side is a little bit older. So you can see Oath starting to work more towards the north as those smokes on the south slowly start to fade out. H-Win just looking at the edges. Gonna see if he can spot out anything. We've got the X-ray on, so you can't see how thick that smoke is, but now you can see those red canisters are starting to go away.
Yeah, it's invested very early, actually, and it potentially creates an opportunity for H-Win to find this first. He peeks over the top. Snakers gets the better of him, though.
Snakers with a quick response. H-Win is down, but Shrimsy will spot out one. Gets reload very low, but doesn't get the flush. Balefrost will go down. A reload goes down as now Mime has come in from support, but now Mime is the only one left, and he's got 3 HP.
No way.
Snakers has cleaned up everybody. Snakers and Kickstart combined. Now Mime trying to make his way through. No, Woth will get the win.
Oh my god. I just saw it in the kill feed there. Snakers actually knocked his teammate, so it came down to a 1v1. I can't believe that. Again, how Oath are able to flip down on his head. H-Win's position was so pivotal to Sonic's success there, and unfortunately it became the catalyst, right? Snakers finds that knock. Shrimsy and Mime have to make a move there. They have to make something happen, because effectively they give up this defensive line. But so well played from Oath, man, to kind of be able to sustain throughout that entire end game with how they came into the circle versus how Sonics did. Yeah, well played, well earned.
Absolutely. I mean, Sonics obviously got circle luck. I mean, that goes without saying. Oath got a little bit of luck in their own right, and the fact that Potato Mountain was just free and clear, and they were able to rotate pretty much easily right into it. I mean, both of these teams really just kind of had to wait out all the insanity that was the early and mid game there, and just kind of clean up everything. And then at the end, it just came down to just a 4v4 to end. I mean, it's just textbook stuff, right?
Yeah.
As you said, the only thing really that could maybe be called into question is the smoke utilization being a little bit on the early side. But
hey,
yeah.
I mean, it played out for Oath, right? It played out in their favor. I felt as if the longer that smoke cover is up, the more it benefits Sonics, right? Because as soon as that dips, then Oath have a much smaller playable area because of where that star was going to end up, and everything on the east side was going to effectively get shrunk up onto the high ground, right? Basically in plain sight. So you could make the argument on both sides of that of who it benefits, but. Wow, what a finish again. We have been absolutely blessed today in terms of end games.
Absolutely. We get to actually see some highlights here, because we get to relive everything that just happened in that game. And my God, it was a lot.
Yeah, a lot around this compound. Again, SSG, the ones, I guess, initially put up the defense, but there was another 3 teams that entertained this. Just absolute insanity down here at Snake.
Just and I mean, I'm gonna have to talk to Civ about this after this is all said and done. I'll hit them up on Discord and see what was going through their minds and their comms during this. And
I want the shadow play.
Thing.
I want the shadow play now.
Like, at which point do you think that this is just getting this is just beyond ridiculous? I mean, it's just crash after crash after crash, and in fairness, I wanted Young Kings does win this, and then Civ just somehow survives, only to get crashed by a Crochet in the end, and then the Fiumba. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you pull off here knowing that you were right in grenade distance?
I mean, we don't have a good opportunity to see there, but there was a couple of other. fantastic. Thank you, production, for that one. That was the most important kill that I wanted to see in this package. But this is the other thing, right? Dignitas send it from all the way on the east side down to the south. And the crazy thing is, they actually make it to 303. That's the wildest thing about that rotation is they run the gauntlet through a Crochet, Dodge, who are down in the compound to the south, arguably TSM, right? They bypass them. And then they get all the way there, and 303 just picked them apart.
Still shots by Penta, but again, I mean, a Crochet kind of doing the mutually assured destruction thing with TSM. And then finally it comes down to this, Stakers and Kickstart. I'm not sure why Stakers decided Kickstart needed to die, but Mime did need to die. And, you know, you got to give it credit. Somehow, they got 14 kills throughout all that.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know where.
They came down from Potato, right? And they walked into a wide open Potato on Circle 4, right? Yeah. I think it was Circle 4 that they actually got up there. They were able to clear all of those teams off to the north. I'm talking about Veritas and was it Troglodytas who was stuck up with that weird rotation up on the north side. And I guess, you know, find a lot of kills on the back of that engagement. And then the point at which you're able to sweep down from Potato to the south for free. At the point at which they did, I mean, it's no surprise really they had that many kills coming into the last engagement.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I forgot all about the north side and all the craziness that was going on there, because at the same time that was going on, there was a whole bunch of fights going on to the south. I mean, everybody was just scrapping it out. On let's be honest, I mean, that's not a weird circle. Like that's
the least weird circle we've had all day.
I'm saying that's a pretty vanilla circle as far as Erangel goes, and as far as today has gone. But these guys have still managed to just run into each other in the weirdest spots or just inopportune spots. I mean, first of all, I'm never going to be able to understand why everybody decided to crash that compound. I know it was center circle, but blind crashing 4 times, it's just nuts. It's just beyond me. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, they must have known something we don't. Maybe, you know, that's based on potentially another game in scrims that's happened with certain lobbies doing certain things. I don't know. Just weird to see, but like I said, I mean, we're talking about the situation of there's no winner of certain scenarios, and that way there's a textbook example in my eyes.
Yep, sell out at all costs for Center Circle, I guess, is the name of the game right now. But that is going to be it for us today. Before we let you go, though, we wanted to remind you about PUBG New State. Developed by PUBG Studio, PUBG New State will launch as a free-to-play experience on Android and iOS in 2021. Make sure you go and pre-register now for your chance to play PUBG New State. Make sure you do it at PUBG. Actually, it's newstate.pubg.com. So that's where you go to do it. Well, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, I believe we will have the analyst desk wrapping things up, and I believe they'll have an interview. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. PUBG New State. Developed by PUBG Studio, PUBG New State will launch as a free-to-play experience on Android and iOS in 2021. Make sure you pre-register on newstate.pubg.com now.
Welcome back. It's Toffees, Cameron, Clover, and of course, a legend in the making, King of the Groza, Kick. How you doing, boss? I'm going to stop that question because it's stupid. You just won a game. You're doing great. But let's talk about how Oath started. You guys came out like a bat out of hell, and it was awesome to see. Did you come in with a different mindset this week?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it last week how like sometimes these teams like just don't move, and certain circles in this format you just gotta go past them. And I think we practiced that a lot in scrims, and I think it worked out for us so far.
I mean, it's been really effective for you guys. Even just, sure, you got 3 wins last week, put you in first place, but even if you just compare the kills, you guys are looking like a completely different team, which is good because it's looking like the more dominant Oath from events past. Is this sort of focus on getting kills part of what you're talking about with this sort of focus strategy of just driving past teams, or is that a separate issue that you are trying to sort of get back up to where it needs to be for this weekend?
I mean, I don't think us not getting kills last week was like an issue. We literally just died like 5 times in 15th place. Any team that's dies 5 times, like, you're gonna not get kills. It's just like haters acting like we get no kills. But I mean, no, we didn't work on that at all. Obviously, everyone knows we're a high fragging team, so we just kill people when we get to a good spot.
Now, I kind of want to make this a little bit of a 2-part for you, because obviously you guys made it to the late game quite a bit today, and y'all had really good patience, I think, going into that. So firstly, how frustrating is it when you guys get team kill knocks in the late game? Because obviously it happened on Miramar. I think you got knocked by Balefrost, and then of course Snakers knocked one of y'all at the end that last game. Does that, I mean, you guys are going into these fights so slow, so methodical. I mean, can you just describe what it's like in that final fight for y'all? Like, what's the comms?
Quickly, can you tell me which game you're talking about? Like this last game, or?
Yes, like I guess this last one, I think you guys had a really that and the Miramar one on the bridge, where you guys kind of were sharing that space with TSM and gas cans. So those are 2 situations where I know you guys had some team fire knocks in the end, and things kind of got really chaotic. When you guys get to that late game, what's your comms like? Who's keeping the calm in your comm situation?
I think me and Rello like speak vocally a lot during late games. We can pretty much break down the end game and tell everyone what's happening and tell them what to watch for and do. The team damage, I don't know who did the team damage on the Miramar, but Snakers like just one-tapped me right there. So I mean, I guess he was just going for the montage. Technically, he got a 4K because he did kill me, so he was just getting the clip.
Yeah.
Nice. Getting the clip by unloading it. You guys had a great day, great games. I think it was almost, I don't want to quote it because I haven't looked at it yet, but I think almost every game, with exception of one, was a massive finish for you guys. Congratulations. We know we're getting ready to go tomorrow. So let me ask you this. What's that mindset? How do you guys approach tonight after such a strong start to a day, knowing you still have 8 more games to prep for?
Nothing new. We think that we played very well today. The only game that we got 9th, we got griefed by a pretty well-known team that do griefing. So only mindset is going into it is knowing that we're so much better than.
All right, bye.
Awesome. I mean, sometimes when you know you're just that much better, that or Trey Bizzle's outside of his trailer and just was like he's about to smack talk Sonics and like pulled that cord. We did lose him at the end of that. I think we were about to get a little talk smack at the Sonics, but that's a big deal. I mean, Cameron, these are Oath and Sonics in particular are 2 teams. You throw TSM into that mix as well, that are constantly going back and forth, fighting for dominance. And Oath has definitely earned some flex over the course of last week and today.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at this whole event, they are by far the best team at the moment. And his point about going out in a lot of early situations, but still getting 3 wins as well. And then if you look at, that was all from last week, of course, then you look at this week, how they were in a lot of late game situations. We talked at the very beginning of the day about adaptation, and Oath have definitely been the best team if you look specifically at last week compared to this week.
Absolutely. And let's take a look back. I think we've got our standings to go over. We've got some good stuff to look at. Let's start with the overall, though. We've flown through them a little bit today, so we'll take a moment to sort of marinate on this one. Oath is in first, and they're doing it in like wild style, Clover. 36 kills. This is insane compared to last week at sort of the start.
Yeah, last week at the start, Oath was not in a great position. I mean, until that last game where they had gotten their win, they were pretty much kind of dangling near last place on day number 1. So to come out strong, confident with already 36 kills on just day 1 is exciting to see. But I also want to point out too that, you know, we saw a bit of consistency. Fiumba managed to gain some ground there on Erangel, and we saw gas cans kind of show themselves again. But looking at the kill leaders, I mean, TSM, this is I think the Phoenix, the rising story that we really wanted to see this weekend.
Yeah, talk about TSM a little bit more, Cameron. I mean, this is a team that started win on game one, and has been very consistent since.
Yeah, it should be noted, because I was a little confused at first. These are the damaging kills from the entire event, not just from today. So, like, Luke didn't have 30 kills off of the day. Sparking didn't have 25 kills off of the day. In fact, Sparking's team is in last place, I believe. But no, overall, TSM, they had good individual games and good individual showings last week, but they would be... It's the age-old TSM story. Even when they were shoot to kill, even when they were Lazarus before that, they would be in these modes where they would just lose people throughout the mid-game, which obviously makes your late-game fighting abilities incredibly neutered. But today is when we saw them able to finally plug that in and play once again as a full squad of 4 in a way that they were a well-oiled machine once again. They definitely shined brighter earlier on in the day. But they were still in second place, I believe, off of solid kill numbers throughout the day overall. So they're back at top of the radar for teams to look at going for the last 2 days of ESL.
I mean, you bring up a good point. I want to bounce off this for just a quick second. You know, you talk about the teams that are doing well playing as 4. And, you know, when we look at, I think, overall the day's performance, I would definitely throw the MVP to Sharpshot, because we saw so many just wild plays to come out of him. But, you know, when we kind of look at Sharpshot and Civ, and then we look at the rest of SSG, I think our biggest criticisms of this team is that they haven't been playing as a 4-man as well as we've seen them do it in the past when we look back to events like ESL Masters 1 earlier in the year when they were playing as Spicy Fish. And so the way that teams have really adapted is what we're saying kind of like with Oath really shows who the powerhouses are, and the ones that are still struggling are the ones that I think we're starting to consistently see kind of not hit the mark that we want.
Yeah. I will touch before we sort of wrap this thing up again on Oath, because I don't think anybody can argue it was Oath's day. And you touched on this earlier, Clover, and I think I've said it many times as well. And so like this idea that Oath isn't really a day one team. And then they come out and they got 36 kills. Last week was 47 total. So literally 11 less than 12 games in 4. What does that say to the rest of the field? I mean, if you're everyone else sitting there watching, is it just like you're at home, you put your feet up, you go, they got the PGC points, see you later. How do you go home and react and prepare for, like, deal with this Oath onslaught?
I think what you got to do is it's proven the amount of homework that you have to do on all the teams in the lobby. Traditionally, no, Oath isn't a day one performer. We can look back historically at their previous PCS performances, even their performance, earlier this year at the ESL. We don't see them kind of blow up at the start. We always see them finish strong. And so I think that for them to be able to go in and change their own style of play, learn how to play the lobby, and even as you kind of heard Kickstart say, they didn't have scoring chances last week. There was some things that kind of didn't work in their favor. So they went back, worked on it in scrims, and it's working great for them. So for some of those teams, you've really got to learn to adapt.
I mean, it seems like they learned to adapt. They did great last week without things working in their favor, Cameron. This week, it's working in their favor, and they're pulling in huge numbers. I would say this. If you are like Oath, and if you think you have figured out the recipe to victory, then it's time to shine. PCS 5 registration for the Americas is open. Get your squad, get in the game, and because it's your last chance to get PGC points and your share of $250,000 in cash. And more importantly, you don't know how good you are until you've tried it against the best. So if you've got a crew and you guys think you're hot tamales, get out there, get on the train, put it to the test. You could go all the way through. We've seen some crazy things from Open's teams in the past, Cameron. There's really no excuse to not just have a good time and give it a try, right?
Yeah. It's free, right?
It's free. It's the cheapest fun you'll have all month, I think, unless you live next to like a free theme park, and then maybe that's an option. All right, that's it for today. Day one was tons of fun. Only 4 games. Kind of hurts my heart to say goodbye already. But before we do, I love my final thoughts. So let's start off with a quick reminder of who picked whom to be on top at the end today. And then I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. Maybe some other things. Cam chose Fiumba to be on top today. That didn't Didn't really work out so good. Clover chose Creche.
They did all right.
They did. You know what? None of our picks got chicken, so nobody gets bragging rights. We got Creche and Sonics over here. So let's hear final thoughts and maybe a little pop-up of what your team can do tomorrow to get back in the game.
Fiumba got a chicken, Fiumba.
That's true. You're right. I'm an idiot. Okay, Clover, you get to talk first. Go.
No, obviously, I don't want to say the fall of LATAM, but the rise of North America this week for some teams that we really needed to see pick it up. And once again, a heartbreaking not chicken dinner for Sonics. So curious to see they finally get that one tomorrow.
Cameron?
Oath are looking really, really good. They're posting up good placements, even on the games that they don't get a win. It looks like it's a pretty even spread right now through the first 4 games, 1 win apiece for 4 different teams. But I would be worried about this being almost like the PCS charity showdown from a year and a half ago, where it just becomes Oath rolling over everyone towards the end of the event, because they are looking really, really hot right now.
They look good. Cannot deny that, but I believe the Sonics are coming. There's a reason that their symbol looks like a hurricane. This is just the calm before the storm, and it's about to break loose tomorrow. Guys, we're here at the same time, at the same place. 4 more games, lots of PUBG action, so make sure you tune in. We appreciate you hanging out with us. On behalf of myself, Cameron, Clover, Porosaurus, Hypoc, and the rest of the team, thank you so much for watching, and until we see you tomorrow, play more PUBG.